What? Where's the description? Oh, right there. Okay, cool. Oh. On? Off. Cancel. Neat. Yeah, hopefully we can get some actual colors today too, I agree. Howdy, howdy, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good day. I know it's Monday. Monday Fenday. It's Morbin time. I would argue no flat earthers is a win for society. That's probably true. That is, I think I might be on board with that. Yeah, if we could somehow defeat them all, right? And by that I don't just mean remove their feet. If we could, yeah, defeat them all, then it would be good for the world, I think. Why are there so many live Christian live streams? Well, because there's a lot of Christians, turns out. I think they fear me. They do fear me. Imagine Morbin in this economy. Oh hey, it's Precept Mars. He's not a flat earther, is he? Find out.
Yo, this is your topic, Blitz. This is
Precept Mars, are you a flat earther?
No, but I think this is the perfect debate topic for you. Like, because there's no metaphysics involved and you can just debate actual physics. But then when you debate God, it's like you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I think you should stick to flat earth debating and then avoid, like, because you're not an expert in metaphysics.
You shouldn't set me up like that, my guy.
You're not an expert in metaphysics. So when you stray out of your
it takes so much restraint for me to not do it. It takes so much restraint. Also, by the way, Precept Mars also isn't an expert in metaphysics, neither is Darth Dawkins. None of them are experts in anything. None of them have degrees. None of them have formal training in any of these topics. So the irony, the gall, is something. No, I wanted to say, I mean, you know, I wanted to remind him that, you know, if I should stay on physics, he should stay on the app that he was on. PMars does have some expertise in some fields, yeah. True. Remember to join only if you're a flat earther. If you are not a flat earther, don't worry about joining. Philip Kraft, what shape do you think the earth is?
How's it going, Blitz? Long time no see. Yeah. I want to ask you a question. Nothing to do with Earth in any way, shape, or form, but with
all right, then it can't be today. Can't be today. I'm sorry, bud. Them's the rules. I don't make them, just enforce them. Have you heard of the smartest flat earther yet? The shape debate? I've seen him. I can't tell if he's a troll or not. Do you guys know if he's a troll? They are terrified of neutrinos. You're right, they are. Yeah, so like this guy who's like the shape debate, I don't know, he's been, I've seen him on a few lives where he's like, where he says like the smartest flat earther, and then he says things like the final experiment was fake, but then he also says gravity is not density. So like it's not clear what his actual views are. I haven't stuck around and watched because like I just don't care. I just didn't care enough to stick around and watch. But like, does anybody know? Angel destroyed me. Mario, do you want to come up and talk about it? Want to talk about how Angel destroyed me? Oh, we have some guests in the guest box. I must have forgotten to... we do have a Ro Jogan, which is a great name, by the way. Ro Jogan. How's it going?
Yo, good.
Ro Jogan,
What's
what shape
going
do you
on?
think the Earth is?
Flat.
Okay, why do you think the Earth is flat, Ro Jogan?
So I'd like to look at, you know how like when you construct a soccer ball,
Yep.
it's actually a flat piece of whatever leather. But
Well, it's not
when
one
you
flat
wrap
piece
it
of
around,
leather. It's like a bunch of pieces stitched together, right?
yeah, but it's not round though.
I mean,
You
you
just wrap
can
it on
cut up
round
a
surface.
globe. You can cut up a globe, and then you can lay it on the ground too. You'll just have some
Yeah, so
distortion.
it depends how you define what the Earth is. I mean, if you define it to be the Earth's crust, then yeah, it's flat.
How is it flat?
It's possibly flat, logically.
You made the claim that you think it's flat. I'm not asking if it's logically flat. It's possibly logically flat. I'm asking if you think it's flat, and you said yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so why do you think it's flat?
Because at some point in the future or the past, it could become flat. That's why it's flat.
Okay. Obvious troll is obvious. All right, let's bring up this person's name. Sammy, I want to say. Oh, they didn't join. From Draw with Scott with the $2. You once called PMARS Timu Darth Dawkins. Well, I mean, he is. And thank you again, Draw with Scott, for the $2. So let's bring up T-Man. T-Man. T-Man, how's it going?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm not a flat earther, but I was just wondering. Sometimes just some of the points I hear sometimes. In the northern hemisphere we can see the North Star, and in the southern hemisphere we see a different set of stars. But I hear flat earthers say sometimes that it's due to perspective dropping.
Yeah, they're confused. So what perspective will never make it so that something disappears. It'll just make it so that something gets smaller and smaller, right? It can't make it go below the horizon. I mean, think about like when you learned in art class, right? You have the convergence point, the point at infinity that's at the center of your page, and then you draw the lines out in all directions, and you draw your buildings and your streets and all that. The buildings near that point, regardless of how far away they are, they're always above the point, right? If they're above the ground. So they're just generally confused. Does that help at all?
Yeah, one more thing. I hear him talk about the 8 inches per mile squared, and they'll show a picture that says, "Well, we shouldn't be able to see this far." Is the math wrong, or is
Yeah,
the
their
Earth
math
just
is wrong. The math is wrong. Like the flat earthers' math is wrong. The statement 8 inches per mile squared doesn't really correlate with how far you should be able to see.
because the Earth is really big?
No. It's just because 8 inches per mile squared is not measuring the height of things that you should be able to see over a given distance. That's just not what it's measuring. It's measuring something called a drop from a tangent, which is just, it's like kind of it's a kind of unrelated measurement. So like the way that you would calculate how far away you can see something.
Okay, then. Well, I won't hold you up. I appreciate it.
Of course. Take care. All right, let's bring up Boogs. Bro got some Boogs. Boogs, how's it going?
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, I can. Boogs, how you get? How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Glad to hear it. What shape do you think the Earth is?
I don't think it's flat, but I always hear the argument about like the how planes fly, and then they say like, well, they make all these complicated stops, and if you want to go from one continent to the other, a lot of times they don't do it in a straight line. What is the argument against that?
Yeah, the argument is that there are straight line paths connecting places in the southern hemisphere. There are direct paths from, say, Chile in South America to Sydney in Australia, and they don't fly north They don't fly north to do that. In fact, they fly south to do that, to make that path. So like the existence of even a single direct flight between southern hemisphere cities is just proves that the reason why they're going, why you sometimes will see flights that go from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere back down to the southern hemisphere. The reason why you see those can't be because those are the shortest paths. If there is a direct flight that connects cities in the southern hemisphere without leaving the southern hemisphere. All right, well, Boogs, I'm gonna let you go. Yeah, I was kind of afraid of this today. It's probably not going to happen. The flat earthers seem to avoid me nowadays. But we'll give it another 5 minutes or so, and then we'll change topics. Flat earth is not dead. That's like saying idiots stopped being born. Well, it's either dead or it's insulated now. His name wasn't Boobs. It was a Boogs with a G, like boogie, boogie woogie woogie. I agree, this is the best topic, and this is how I got my start, but apparently all the flat earthers are too afraid these days, so. Flurfs are all trouser, no leg. That's an exceptional way of putting it. Like, that's like an exceptionally, exceptional analogy. I wonder why they avoid me. Oh, because I am the Flurf Destroyer or something. Because they have a king, and when their king gets embarrassed, which in this case, Angels of Light did get embarrassed, rather than go on and defend his honor or, try to press the issue, they all run and hide until their king tells them what to do. But what we can do is we can switch to the next most unscientific claim, which we will, we'll just switch over now. We'll just switch to the creationism claim. So here we're specifically trying to talk about the science behind it. We're not trying to do theological stuff. We're trying to talk about creationism, like divine acts that created the world. Do you mean King? Do you mean Papa Flurf? Well, King, look, so Angels of Shite is an Australian, and I think that they still have a king, right? I believe they still have a king, so it makes sense, right? Gotta change the topics or the titles of the live streams though really quick. Yep, flat earthers don't call. So I mean, we will give it a try. Flat earthers probably every other week or so on Mondays, but until then, just to keep the just to keep a pulse on things. But as it stands, it seems like the flat earthers are genuinely dead. Well, the flat earthers aren't dead, but the flat earth is generally dead. Does the world even exist? Can we prove that? Depends on what you mean. Flurfs only join lives of other Flurfs. That's true. That's exactly it. All right, let's talk to Sheikh Harris Kafour. I believe we've spoken to Sheikh Harris Kafour before, but if I remember correctly, he was actually fairly chill.
Hey there.
Sheikh Harris Kafour, we've spoken, right?
Yeah, we've spoken about 3 times.
Okay. What did we speak? What did we speak about last time?
Well, I think we spoke about if the universe was created or not.
Okay.
That seems to be our point of contention.
Well, so
By
do you
the
think
way,
that the
I
universe?
waited yesterday
Sorry.
for like 3 hours. I waited yesterday for like 3 hours, and when it was my turn to speak on that, you were on that live yesterday with a couple of people.
we didn't really have guests for very long. Like there weren't a lot of people in the guest box. Where were you waiting on TikTok or?
On TikTok, you like spent an hour per guest.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. That's pretty normal on that show. But anyway,
Okay,
so
wow.
so
Anyway,
Sheikh Harris Kafour, How old do you think the Earth
Yes.
is?
I don't know, about 3 million years, something like that.
3 million?
It's very old. Yeah, a billion.
Where did that
sorry,
number come
billion.
from? Okay, yeah.
I
So
don't know.
like we
You
agree that the Earth is
physicists.
okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I was just double checking that we agree. So we agree that our universe is, or our world, the Earth is like 4.5 billion years old or so.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
do you think that the world was kind of formed intentionally? And I mean the
Yeah,
world as in
I
like the
think it
Earth.
was.
I mean the Earth.
Yeah. I'll go a step further. The universe was formed intentionally. Yes.
Well, so I'm interested specifically in the claim that the Earth is formed intentionally.
okay.
right.
Yes, I believe it was created intentionally to
So
be what it is.
and so when you say that, I just want to clarify. Do you mean that like, you know, something set in motion a path that would inevitably lead to the Earth billions of years later? Or do you mean that there is some being that specifically sat out to form the Earth, form the Earth itself when the Earth formed?
The first.
Okay.
The first one.
So
That when the universe was created, God created the universe in a way that would eventually lead to the creation of the Earth. Yes.
okay. So do you see how that would look indistinguishable from the Earth forming naturally?
No, I do not see it. I do believe that the Earth is not necessarily existent, meaning it could have not existed.
Whether
It's a
that's the case or
possibility,
not,
very
it-
good possibility.
in your view, it did form naturally, right? The only thing that wasn't
Not-
natural in your view is the initial conditions. But once the initial conditions were
Well-
set, the laws of nature took over.
Well, I don't believe in nature. What you say nature, I say God. So when you say naturally, I would say it was guided by God's hands.
So when you say so you don't think that there are rules and regularities that describe the universe. You think it's like actively God doing things at all times?
No, I do believe there are rules, but those rules were created by God, and He's
I
the one who
understand that.
commands them and allows them to happen. Yeah.
Look, so I
That's-
understand that. So you have some set of rules and regularities. We would call these laws of physics.
Yes.
In your view, these were created by God. Fine. And in your view, the initial conditions were determined by God. But once all of that's in place, everything just plays out naturally, right? Just plays out according to the rules and the given initial conditions.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so then
exactly.
how could we tell the difference between the Earth forming naturally and the Earth forming intentionally, if they're indistinguishable in your view?
Well, I think the fact that there is order in the universe shows that there was a creator, and there's a creator, then therefore the Earth was created intentionally. I think just the fact that the Earth
But the order you're
exists
pointing to is
shows
just things like the laws of physics, right?
yeah, which could have not happened, and the mere fact that they
I
did
mean that's a
happen
claim,
is-
right? That's probably something that we shouldn't just assume.
Okay.
So
I don't. Why would
all
we
I'm
not
saying is that
assume
it seems like given the data that we have, that we have a story about how the Earth formed. The Earth formed, from a collapsing giant molecular cloud of gas during the sun's formation. There was a disk that existed around the Earth, around the proto-sun, and then that disk collapsed gravitationally, and you ended up with some planets and so on and so forth. That whole process doesn't require anything to do with the God, right?
I think it actually does because, look, correct me if I'm wrong. I have seen some. I don't know if my son is making noise.
I can hear him,
sorry
but
about that.
don't worry about it. He's a baby or a child or
Yeah, yeah, great.
babies
look,
can't do anything about that.
I did see some research showing that if the Earth was 1 cubic centimeter closer to the sun, everything would burn. If it was 1 cubic centimeter further
You
to the
didn't
sun,
see any
everything would
research
freeze.
saying this.
I didn't. I mean,
No,
I did see
you
it.
saw
That's why I said,
no.
correct me if
What
I'm
you
wrong.
saw was like some apologist Facebook meme or something.
Yeah, well, I read this like 10 years ago, something. in
Okay,
like a book I
it
found.
wasn't true 10 years ago, and it's not true today.
Okay, so the
The-
Earth is not finely tuned to have life.
No, the Earth, over the course of a single year, the Earth gets like 3 million miles closer and further from the sun.
Yeah. Sure.
Like it moves
And,
it moves like
with
3 million
the-
miles over the course of a year.
Yes, understood. But my point is that it just seems that the Earth is it's prepared for life, and I don't think that that is something likely, especially the fact that if you analyze all the other planets that we have information of, there's like no reasonable reason for us to think that there's life in any other planet, but
Well, that's not true.
we have life on Earth.
So
I think that
I mean, first of all, it's just not true. We actually do have good reason to think that life used to exist on Mars. This was announced at the end of
life
2020.
in what form?
Bacterial
I mean,
life.
how? I mean, there's an assumption to that.
I mean,
don't think you
there's
can-
evidence. It's not proof, but there is definitely evidence. And this is what,
Well,
you know,
there is
NASA
something
put
that
out a
might
press
show
release
that-
about this like a year ago,
Yeah,
maybe a year and a half ago.
I did see something like that. No, yeah, I did see something like that. I did see this other video from one of your TikTok colleagues. I forgot his name. It's a guy with glasses, where he was explaining
That
something
helps
about
nobody.
Sorry about that. So he was explaining about the Goldilocks zone. How when people say that there are planets that are likely to have life in them, that's actually very wrong, because we are assuming certain things that cannot be assumed. And so just makes it very unlikely that there is life in it.
How does it make it unlikely? Look, we find, okay, suppose that you're digging in Minnesota. You're digging around in the dirt, and you find a rock that is shaped exactly like a human femur, right? Or let's say it's not shaped like a human femur. Let's say it's shaped like a, I don't know, a T-Rex femur, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then you say, this is evidence that T-Rexes existed.
I mean,
Now, if you're applying the same reasoning to this hypothetical as you are to the life existing on Mars, what just happened? Can you hear me?
someone just called you. I can hear you, bro.
That was weird.
Yeah, I heard.
No, I
I
just
heard
got-
some sounds like some.
Yeah, I heard sounds too. For some reason, it disconnected me. That was strange.
yeah,
One sec,
but
let me
I'm
double
here,
check
though.
something. Okay, I think that we're good. Anyway, so if we use the same reasoning that you're applying to this evidence for life on Mars to the T-Rex, you'd be like, well, you're just assuming. There's so many assumptions going into this that we can't really think it's reasonable. We can't really actually consider this evidence of T-Rexes. But like, no, of course we do. Of course we treat fossils as evidence of T-Rex, and we treat
Yeah, sure.
fossilized
I'm
bacteria
not
as evidence of
denying
bacteria.
There wasn't life on Mars.
Sorry?
Sorry, I broke off a bit just because. Can I grab a call real quick, like 30 seconds? It's a delivery guy, and I'll just get
Sure.
back on.
Sure.
Okay. Really,
Yeah,
real
yeah.
quick.
We'll bring up so there are people in the guest box, but we'll give them like 30 seconds or so, and then we will bring them back up. But don't worry, everybody will get their chance. Everybody will get their chance. Yeah, I don't know what just happened. It was very strange. It was like somebody was calling me on my computer, and I don't know how that worked. Isn't that kind of weird? Maybe it was aliens. He can come back up if it comes to it. Yeah, I'll bring him back. I'm just giving him 30 seconds because he said that, otherwise I'll bring somebody else up. There's a few people in the guest box. From Logan B. Wood with the $5, would you provide a working definition of creationism? Yeah, that the world was created intentionally. And this could be from as simple-minded as the Earth specifically was created intentionally 6,000 years ago, to the world was arranged in a particular, the world meaning like the whole universe was arranged in a particular way by an intentional agent. That's what I mean. You can think of this as intelligent design. All right, let's bring up Sheikh Harris Gafour again.
Hey
Welcome
there.
back. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
No, of course,
So,
of course.
I was saying that I'm not really denying that there was no life in Mars. I'm not really against having life in Mars or any other planet. It just seems very unlikely that that Earth was not designed for life, because life is pretty abundant on Earth.
It is
I think
abundant
we
on
live
Earth
in a-
because Earth is a good shape for life, if you will.
Yeah.
But we expect that there would be places that are compatible with life, right? I mean, it doesn't take much. All you have to do is have a planet that's not so close to your sun that you can have liquid water, and then it should be rocky so that It's not just made of gas. And then all you need is chemicals. And so, like, that wouldn't be so surprising.
I'm going to send you the video of your friend. You actually follow him. I'll just send you in your DMs.
You know
he
what his name is?
Explains how that. No, I don't know what his name. I know he's like bald. He's like bald, and he also is a physicist from America.
Are you talking about Dr. Dakota Starkid?
Yeah, I think that's
Dakota Tyler is his last name is Tyler. Yeah, what about him?
Yeah. Like, he made a video I just watched last week, explaining how those assumptions you just made are, very hard to prove, because we have to assume that life on other planets would require the same ingredients on Earth. He was explaining how, like, Venus.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I can clarify. So if there's if there are planets like Earth out there, which almost certainly there are, close enough to the sun so that liquid water can exist, and not made of gas so that you can have like oceans and land and all this stuff, then life like that on Earth could arise, as long as you have the right chemicals. But there could be other situations where life could also arise that's not at all like Earth. So all you're doing by suggesting that life doesn't have to be like it is on Earth is saying that there could be more kinds of life than we had thought of. And so this just means that we would expect to find more life in the universe, not less. Not that I'm making assumptions. I'm just saying that if there's certainly life can exist like life on Earth, and we would expect that it's not that hard to make. But if life can exist in other ways too, then life would be even more abundant.
Yeah. So that wasn't the argument. I think I remembered. And you just go correcting me where I'm wrong. So he was explaining the planet Venus, right? If Venus was on the Goldilocks place, on the right part of the sun, and there's this metric, there's this number he mentioned, which is the expected some number for it to be just right for life to exist. But the thing is, Venus's atmosphere is much thicker than the Earth. It's much more acidic. So therefore, even if Venus was in the Goldilocks zone, there's no reason for us to believe life would actually arise there, because it's just not possible due to the fact that its atmosphere is very thick. And then he explained about Mercury and other planets
Yeah, there are things that have to go right. For example, you need an atmosphere. Basically, it can't be so. The atmosphere can't be so thick that it has a runaway greenhouse effect, because then you wouldn't be able to have liquid water that exists there because it's too hot. Yes. But it's interesting you bring up Venus, because there are planetary scientists who are actively working on missions to send probes to the atmospheres of Venus, because it's possible that life exists in the atmosphere of Venus. Because it turns out the atmospheres of Venus are actually very well behaved. If you go about 50 kilometers above the surface of Venus, the atmospheric pressure is about 70% of the atmospheric pressure on Earth, and the temperature of the air, the temperature of the atmosphere, is about the temperature of Earth, the surface of the Earth. So if you go about 50 kilometers up into the atmosphere of Venus, you actually find that it's a pretty hospitable place. Now, it's still it's still overwhelmingly carbon dioxide. There's not like any free floating oxygen, but it's the kind of place where life could evolve.
Yeah, understood. But okay, so I don't think this defeats our creationist point, because maybe you're used to like debating Christians who have a very specific view of creationism.
I wasn't trying to I wasn't trying to defeat creationism, but you were presenting an argument in favor of creationism, and I was telling you that it's mistaken.
Yeah, well, you began the conversation. I would say that my main argument for creationism is the fact that the universe is contingent, and the fact that the universe is fine-tuned. I think you join these two things together, and the result is creationism. It was created. These would be my
questions about contingency. Questions about contingency are probably not empirical, meaning that like that's not something that you could like demonstrate in any reasonable way. That you just kind of have to.
I think I could show it in like three scientific facts. But first, let me be honest about one thing. Of course, most of what I believe is faith-based, because I do believe in God, and I don't think a scientific fact would dissuade me of that belief. But what I do find astounding and interesting is that throughout the years, scientific facts actually strengthen the positions that Islam has mentioned instead of weaken them. I just found that interesting. That's not why we believe, but it does make it stronger. So
Are you
one of the
sure?
reasons,
Because like I'm
yeah,
pretty
I'm
sure
sure.
that
Like I believed in God before I knew about science.
No, I was talking about like the strengthening of Islamic claims. Because like the one that people bring up a lot, the one that people bring up a lot is like expanding the heavens. But like that was 100 years ago, right? And that's like a single verse. And also I'm pretty sure that that's found in a lot of different religious traditions where we talk about where like the expanses or the universe is spoken about as having been expanded. And you know, you even see like religious traditions or faith-based traditions that involve like a cosmic egg, which is quite literally how the Big Bang was originally described in 100 years ago. But more than that, as time has gone on further, as we've learned, say, more embryology, and as we've learned, you know, more geology and so on, we've actually found that the things that it said in the Quran are becoming less and less likely to be true, or becoming more and more false.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's anything there that I know you're going to bring the one about the bones and the skin.
Well, I was actually going to bring up how the iron, the total iron content of the Earth didn't come from meteors.
Where did it come from?
It formed with the Earth. It was the foundational piece of the Earth, actually.
Okay, sure. But some of it did come from meteors, right?
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%. Okay, I have to check that and check what the Quran actually says about that. I know it does say that God sent meteors, sent iron from outside the earth. Could be referring to a specific type of iron. I'm not sure, but I think that just the mere fact that we do have iron from outside of the earth, I mean, that seems pretty accurate.
But that's not a prediction, right? Because people knew about meteoric iron. Meteoric iron is really easy to find because there's just a rock sitting in a desert and it's composed of iron. No, absolutely in Arabia. That's exactly where you would expect to find it, actually, most easily, because it's a pretty barren place, and meteors will literally just lie on the ground.
Yeah, but
and you can just find them, and you're like, oh, hey, there's iron in that. So that's actually exactly where you would expect it.
I don't really recall people finding meteors in Arabia or finding craters there.
I mean, like this is like finding meteors in it's far easier to find meteors, and meteors don't have to have a crater, by the way. Most meteors don't leave a crater, the small ones anyway. Finding meteors as just like rocks, they're just literally just like smooth rocks on the ground is far easier in a desert than it is in a forested area.
Yeah. Okay, well, I don't know if, I don't think any meteors were there.
To be clear, meteoric iron has been known about since like 2000 BC.
Okay.
Right, like the ancient Egyptians knew about meteoric iron. In fact, there was a dagger for Tutankhamun, I think, actually, that was made from meteoric iron, because the Egyptians, they didn't have iron mines, right? They didn't know how to mine iron, the ancient Egyptians anyway. Instead, they could only get iron from meteors, which famously, Egypt is not particularly far from the Middle East.
Well, yeah, it's pretty close, but
in fact, I bet I could go find number of meteor discoveries by location map. I bet you that there's a map somewhere that will show us how abundant meteors are found in different parts of the world.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. That's
all right.
There.
Let's go find it.
But how would that defeat
hold on.
claim? How would that?
Well, no. It would just say that. It would just explain why they said that. Right. Okay. Here's a map.
Understood.
See that? In fact, apparently, the Arabian Peninsula is one of the most prolific places to find meteorites.
Yeah, but
look how dense it is.
Does it mention the dates of that?
No, but look, the reason I'm bringing these are obviously going to be recorded ones, probably from the last. I mean, we can go pull it up. This is just some random plot that I found, but it's probably from like the last 20 years or something. But the point is that indicates that they're more easy. That's more easy to be found if they're there, right? Because they basically land on the Earth uniformly, right? There's not any one particular. I mean, like they're less likely to end up on the poles than they are near the equator because they're coming in from the same angle. But the point is that if the distribution of meteors across the ground is basically uniform, then one would expect, if it was easier to find them in the desert, then you would find a big concentration of them in the desert, and that's exactly what we find.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting fact that I will definitely look at that verse and at the at that fact more often, more closely. Yes, exactly. But again, it's not really saying what the Quran is saying is not true. You know,
I mean, there's also the whole thing about, I mean, regarding geology as well. There's a claim about mountains being pegs that keep the earth steady, right?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this verse?
Yeah,
In fact, mountains do almost the exact opposite. Mountains are present where there are fault lines and where earthquakes are abundant. The mountains actually are the things that, in some sense, make the earth less steady.
So without mountains, the earth would be less steady.
No, it would be more steady.
I remember watching some geological documentaries saying the exact opposite, that because of mountains, the earth is kept more steady.
I don't know why anybody would claim that. Mountains form, at least, large mountain ranges form when two tectonic plates collide with each other.
Yeah.
And when they do that, when they collide, this where you have fault lines, that is the location of the collision. That's where mountains push up from each other. They go like this, right? You have two tectonic plates, you have a fault between them, and then they go like this and form mountains. But that fault is still there. And that fault, the presence of faults, is where earthquakes happen.
Yes.
And so if the mountains are not preventing the earthquakes, the mountains and the earthquakes are caused by the same thing.
Sure. Yeah, I know that. But isn't the root of the mountain like bigger than the actual mountain?
There's not really such a thing as a root of a mountain, as far as I know. Like mountains are just like uplifted continental crust.
Yeah.
They don't really have roots per se.
Understood there.
And in fact, interestingly enough, somebody at some point, I don't think it was you, but somebody brought up, or somebody claimed that, mountainous roots are mentioned in this one geology textbook. And then I found a copy of the geology textbook, and the phrase is never mentioned once in there. So it's not clear to me that this is a thing that makes sense to say, that like mountains are like the roots of mountains are pegs that keep the earth steady, right?
Yeah.
Like I've never seen a justification for that claim.
Understood. What I am taking for this conversation is that I have to check these scientific miraculous claims of the Quran, because it is something that we're actually quite warned against, because sometimes they're not accurate scientifically, and when they get disproved scientifically, it does seem like we are being dishonest, but maybe the verse means something else, and I will definitely have to double check that. But
fair enough.
I think the main issue of creationism would be that I mentioned, I've got three arguments for mentioning the universe had a beginning. One is, I look at the Big Bang Theory, I can clearly see, as your image poses, that we do go back to a point where it was the beginning of the universe.
That's not what this diagram shows,
theory,
by the way.
He does claim that the universe, if it expands, we had a beginning.
Just because it expands doesn't mean that it has a beginning.
The Guth-Vilenkin theory does say that.
No, it doesn't.
Well, that's not what Vilenkin said. Vilenkin said, if it expands, it has a beginning. That's what Vilenkin said. That's what he concluded.
Borda and Guth say the opposite.
Also, if you look
by the way, just so you know, Borda and Guth say the opposite. So, if democracy means anything, then B and G win, because they've been interviewed.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know if they say that exactly. I think what they do say is that it doesn't mean that the universe had a beginning. I'll check.
By the way, famously, Guth is actually a proponent of an eternal universe. Guth actually thinks that the universe is eternal.
Yeah, I know. And that's very, very contradictory, because if it's expanding, you can clearly trace it back to a moment when it's zero and it never expanded.
No, you can't necessarily trace it back to a moment when it's zero. You can trace it back to a moment when it wasn't expanding, perhaps.
Why not?
Because look, so imagine that you have like
that would be zero, right?
No. If you have like a balloon that's getting bigger and smaller, you can trace during one of the periods where it's expanding, you could trace it back up until it stops expanding and starts contracting, and then it would go back and forth. Or Alternatively, you could have that it's expanding, but it's expanding faster and faster. So as you go back into the past, it's contracting slower and slower. So it never stops expanding, but it never gets to zero size.
Yeah, but you'd still need
neither of those.
So you'd actually go back to the point where
neither of those get you to zero size or to a beginning.
You get to a beginning when you get to when the balloon was made. You know, you need something to expand.
The balloon is an analogy.
I think
the balloon is an analogy. In this case, the balloon always existed.
It doesn't make sense.
In this case, the balloon always existed.
Well, then, if
it's an analogy.
Then it's defeating that's a claim I don't accept. Okay, how's the balloon always existing? Where did it come from? You know,
if it always existed, it didn't come from anywhere. That's what it means to always exist.
From somewhere. Well, yeah, then that doesn't make sense. Okay.
What doesn't make sense about it? You think that God always existed?
Infinite regression.
Yeah, it seems fine. I don't believe in it, but I think it seems fine. It's at least
is the necessary existing.
Sorry?
You think infinite regression is fine? You think it's okay?
Yeah, I don't see any issue with it.
If there's infinite regression, then there's no present.
Sure there is.
Because we're infinitely in the past.
In the past of what?
We're still in the past.
No, how would we be in the past? What are you talking about?
Exactly, it's infinite.
No, I mean there can still be a present even if the past is infinite. That would, by the way, this would be like saying, what do you mean the future is infinite? That would mean that we're always in the future. Like, no, obviously not. What?
Exactly. So that means it's
don't say exactly. I was contradicting you.
When you spread your two hands, is the distance between them infinite?
Finite.
If you were to say the distance between your two palms, right?
Yeah, it's finite.
It's finite, but you can multiply that infinitely. You can multiply that.
I don't know what you mean by multiply it infinitely.
So you have. I mean that there are infinite numbers between the space of your two palms.
Okay. Well, okay. If are we talking about numbers or are we talking about distance?
Both.
Because like between well no, but distance is there's a distance function that tells you a number associated for two different positions, say. But if we talk about like the number of numbers between 0 and 1, there's like an infinite amount of numbers between 0 and 1, even though the distance between 0 and 1 is just 1.
Yeah, great. So the claim is that quantitative infinite exists in our minds so that we can count, but in reality there's no such thing as quantitative infinite in reality.
Why should I believe
doesn't really
that?
exist. Like there.
Why not?
Because if there is, then nothing gets done. You know.
How does that follow?
Done. Like you can.
I take the B theory of time, and so in the B theory of time, there's no distinction between past, present, and future aside from their temporal orderings.
Say what? Sorry about that. I got a call.
In the B theory of time, there's no reality distinction between the past, present, and future, so they can all exist equally. Really,
I believe in that. I believe in that because I believe that God created time. So I don't.
Okay, if you hold that position, then there's no issue with an infinite regress.
There is an issue because there has to be a time where God created time.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, it does. It's not.
How could there be a time when God creates time?
Sequence. It's a sequence.
Okay, so you think that time existed before time?
Sequence of events.
Sure, you think that there was a sequence of events before time existed. That's weird.
Hello, sorry, you broke up.
Yeah, so you think that there was a sequence of events before time existed?
Because God created time.
Yeah, so there is a sequence of events, which is generally what we call time, before time.
No, it's not time. It's a sequence of events.
Well, okay, so what do you think time is, if not just a sequence of events?
Just like when you look at a book, right? You see words. They're in sequence. They're not in time.
Okay, but those aren't events.
The words in a book. They're not in time.
Those aren't events. Those are words.
Yeah, no. That's an analogy to show you how you can have a sequence of events without time. You know, you have words in a book. They're in sequence. They're not in time. You know, because they're.
Yeah. Okay. So I agree that you can have sequences, but I don't think that you can have sequences of events because events are typically understood to mean at least when those events are in sequence, to be events taking place at different times.
By us humans? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Anyways,
so can you give me any other way
I gotta
to?
go because I'm gonna get some guests soon.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm
Go
gonna
take care of
talk
your
to you
kid too.
another time. Okay.
Have a good one,
Thank you
Shake.
very much, bro.
Take
See
care.
ya.
He's always nice. We do disagree on a lot, but he's always nice. All right, let's bring up. I believe Harpoon has been waiting for quite some time, so let's bring up Harpoon, and then we'll bring up a guest from the Discord. Harpoon, how's it going?
What's going on? Can you hear me?
What? Yeah, I'm doing all right. You didn't ask that, I guess. You asked what's going on, but that's neither here nor there. Harpoon, do you think that the Earth was created?
So that's what I was basically going to ask just before we dive into this is, can I get a clarification on what's your definition of creationism? Or,
Yeah, it could be any.
What
it could
that
be.
is.
Yeah, so it's in some sense it's a pretty broad swath of views. On one extreme, it could be something like the Earth is 6,000 years old, and God created it out of nothing. God created the Earth out of nothing, formed it from a void or whatever. All the way to the other end of the spectrum, which is like, the laws of physics rule in this universe, but God set everything in motion 13.8 billion years ago, or something like that.
Okay.
It's a pretty wide spectrum of views, but it's something between those two.
Okay. I mean, like that's a lot to go off to. There's many different.
So what do you believe?
So I'm basically torn. I was raised an atheist. I go through primary schooling, secondary, all throughout high school, being taught specific, ways that the universe is created and whatnot. We have obviously just like science-based belief about how the universe came to form. But then there's a spiritual way that's offered, or many different spiritual ways that are ultimately offered for an explanation about the universe. Now, I don't think that any specific religion is the answer over any others, but despite all of my years as an atheist, I can't possibly accept I can't possibly accept that science has all of the answers, and that when there's not an answer, so specifically like, what is dark matter, what is dark energy, if science doesn't really have an explanation for what that is, then we can't possibly rule out that there is an outside actor, or that there is something spiritual going on, because you can't prove a negative, right? So oh wait, hold on, I can't hear you.
Nope, that was on my end. I muted myself. Okay, maybe I should give you an analogy as to why I think that line of reasoning is probably not right. So I made a video a few days ago about lava lamps. Lava lamps have been around since the 60s. That's when they were invented. And yet, to this day, we don't have a complete understanding of how they work. Like, we can build them. Like, we know how to build them. That's no issue. But we don't understand, like, why they do the thing that they do. There's just hasn't been a lot of research on this. So it is true that we don't have the full story. We don't know all of the mechanisms that are involved. Does it therefore suggest that it's reasonable, or perhaps even plausible, that somehow there is outside divine intervention explaining how lava lamps work?
I mean, like, okay, so I feel like that analogy, a couple things with that. One, I feel like I'm first reaction is I'm kind of shocked that we don't know how lava lamps
So was
work.
I, and then I went and I looked in the physics literature, and it turns out there's exactly one paper on them from 2009.
Okay.
And that's it. And even they say, yeah, we still can't explain all of this quantitatively, and there's a lot more work to be done. So yeah, it is shocking, but it's true.
Okay. So I mean, like, okay, you take that analogy, yeah, sure. Just because we don't know how it works doesn't mean that we can't provide like an explanation or reasoning for it, right? It's like that's essentially your.
No, my point is that just because we don't know the exact details of how something works, doesn't mean that we are then, justified in saying, well, it could be a god.
But are we justified in saying? So then, how are we justified in saying that it could be anything? How are we justified in saying that it couldn't be a god?
Well, look, you can rule things out without knowing what the final answer is. For example, you know, I can rule out that leprechauns cause rainbows, even if I don't know what does cause rainbows.
But okay, so like here's the thing. So religion has been for the longest period of time, it's been a way to explain things that we see around the world without actually knowing what happens, right? So it rains, it's the gods crying. If there's an earthquake, it's the gods stomping on the ground or something like that, right?
Yep.
So whenever we look at science and its constant evolution, we see that it's continuing to provide more insight into how things are actually happening. And so whenever I'm looking into specific, you know, areas where, oh man, there's these physicists who say, oh, we just don't have an answer for something like dark energy, or there's multiple different competing elements or theories for what the Big Bang looks like, then
or there's multiple competing ideas for how lava lamps work.
right. Except that you could probably prove how a lava lamp works with some sort of physics, right?
Yeah, and you could probably prove how dark energy works or how the Big Bang works with some sort of physics.
You're right. So then why don't they?
Same reason why they haven't for lava lamps either, because it's hard.
Okay, yeah, because it's hard. But why is it hard?
Because it turns out that the universe is under no obligation to be simple.
You're right. Okay, so it's not obviously the universe isn't going to be simple, and maybe that's because that those unanswered elements are so complex that they have to be formed under divine intervention, right?
Okay, so it seems like the same reasoning gets us to thinking that lava lamps work by divine intervention.
I mean, if you can't prove that it doesn't, then how are we ruling that out as a possibility?
The same way that we rule out that there's an invisible floating teapot orbiting Jupiter. Generally, the view is something like, if you don't have evidence for a thing, you are not justified in believing in the thing, even if you don't have evidence to the contrary.
So because we don't have evidence for how dark energy works, then we can't have any theory for how dark energy works?
You should be agnostic about it. Now, what you can do is you can propose explanations, and then you can try to test those explanations, which people do all the time. You know, it's not settled, of course, but people do this all the time. Specifically, I mean, people do this more frequently for dark matter because it's a little bit easier to get your hand on dark matter. But people do this all the time. And the issue, the reason why we haven't resolved dark energy, the reason why we haven't resolved dark matter, the reason why we haven't resolved lava lamps is because the ideas that have been proposed haven't been right. Or either they either haven't been right, or the tests to check if they're right are too hard. We haven't figured out a way to do them in like a reasonable way. So like in the case of a lava lamp, what was the kind of constraining factor 20 or 15 years ago in 2009 was that they didn't have the computational power that they needed to do the simulations that they wanted to do to test their ideas, because they weren't able to it just wasn't feasible to try to do like microscopic kind of variable tweakings for like a physical lava lamp. That's just too hard. And so that was the gap back then, and you know, nobody's really looked into it since then. I know it was 17 years. I was making an approximation. And so similarly, to test for dark matter, one of the most direct ways that you would do this is you would just go out to where the dark matter is and you would try to see how it behaves. But that's like light years away, and so we can't go there yet. Alternatively,
isn't dark
you could
matter
try
anyway?
Well, there's places where it seems to have higher density and places where it seems to have lower density, and so you might want to go to a high density area where there's not as much like contaminants around and stuff. But like the alternative is you might want to, if you think dark matter is a particle, you might try to build a bigger and bigger particle accelerator to detect it. Or if you think it's a microscopic black hole, you might want to build more and more sensitive gravitational wave or gravitational lensing telescopes. But these are all things that either cost money or are technically challenging to do. So it's not that nobody's doing it. It's just that it's hard.
Okay, so yeah, sure, it's hard, but since we don't have a defined theory about it, it doesn't rule out all the many different possibilities, or sorry, since we don't have a consensus on what something is, right? That doesn't mean that we can rule out all varying
You can still rule
theories
stuff out,
about how
though.
it works.
You still can rule stuff out, though. right?
How though?
For example, you can say if, and this is like dark matter is just a really great example of this. If dark matter was made of black holes that was such and such a mass or bigger, then we would have seen them already. The fact that we haven't seen them already shows that it's not made of black holes of such and such size or bigger.
Okay, yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. Like if dark matter was, made out of apples, then we could probably look into the universe and see that it's all
exactly.
apples.
So we can still rule things out without knowing what it is.
Okay. So then, but that changes whenever you go to a theist perspective, because that theist point of view or that theist creation can take the shape of many different things, of many different undefined, unspecified powers.
This is a problem for theism because it's unfalsifiable. There's no experiment you can run to check it definitively, right? So that's a problem.
You're right. You're
that's not in favor of theism.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. You can't provide an experiment to test it. But that mean
because the hypothesis can always change to account for whatever data?
Okay. Wait. Okay. So you just said that we don't have an experiment to test it.
Mm-hmm.
But so therefore it's a problem for theism, because that's how, since we can't test it. We can't test if it's true, then ultimately we can say, okay, yeah, we can basically rule it out as a possibility. But you just said that lava lamps, we don't really know how lava lamps work. There's a paper published like 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But we do know that lava lamps exist despite having an experiment to figure out how lava lamps exist. So in your reasoning there, you would say that, oh yeah, sure, God does exist, but man, he did create the universe, but man, we just don't have an experiment to figure it out.
I don't understand the analogy. In the case of the lava lamp, the lava lamps obviously exist. We can just see them, right?
Mm-hmm.
The question is we don't know what the mechanism is that makes them kind of work the way that they do, right? I mean, we have like rough ideas, but we don't have like a quantitative model that actually like describes with precision the way that they behave. It's very, very hard to predict, and has a lot of moving parts, so we don't understand that. So the thing in question is not that lava lamps exist. The thing in question is why do they work the way that they do? And that's what we don't have an answer to. So I think the correct analogy would be something like, we have a universe. Obviously we have a universe, we can see it, we live in it.
Yeah, of course.
And the question is why does it work the way it does? Now, there's a whole bunch of different ways, a few gaps that we haven't plugged up yet: dark matter, dark energy, things like like black holes, singularities, that kind of thing. But for the most part, we understand how it works pretty well.
All of like quantum mechanics, since
quantum mechanics is super well understood. That's like the most well understood thing.
Yeah, but aren't there because I obviously have very surface level knowledge about it, but it appears that like quantum mechanics, whenever you go deep into quantum mechanics, it constantly contradicts itself.
No, it never contradicts itself. It's like it's entirely internally consistent. It is extremely like our models are
what about that
extremely accurate.
What about the like light test where you visualize your like protons hitting the back? I don't know the exact phrasing.
I can assure you, you're referring to the double slit experiment, the quantum double slit experiment. It is extraordinarily well understood.
Okay.
We can predict it. We can predict its outcomes with 100% or 99.9 with 100 nines accuracy.
Okay, but okay.
This is this is like a thing that people that like lay people think is mysterious. It's not mysterious to anybody who knows quantum mechanics. Anyway, but so this is to say, so the analogy would be something like the analogy with the lava lamp is we know the lava lamp exists. We know the universe exists. We know the lava lamp works. You can plug it in and it does its thing. We know the universe works. We can just like look and stuff moves and it's not falling apart. We know the basic gist as to how the lava lamp works. It involves convection and it involves thermal transfers, but it's not so clear and we know the basic gist of how the universe works. There's gravity and there's electromagnetism and quantum mechanics and there's all this stuff, right? But we don't know the exact fine details, how every single piece of the lava lamp plays a role in getting the outcomes that we observe. In the same way, we don't have all of the details to get the exact mechanisms for how dark matter works, for example. And so it seems like if we're not like, it seems like the analogy is almost exact, and so if we can't put God into the lava lamp, we certainly shouldn't put it into the universe. And if you want to put God into the universe
right,
on the
but
same
God
grounds,
can be, God can be the reasoning within that gray space for why the lava lamp works the way. Not obviously we understand the convection and the heat transfer and everything like that, but the gray area, the stuff that we don't understand, it's unreasonable to rule out that it.
why is it unreasonable? We rule out things that we don't have justification for all the time.
Okay, yeah, you're right. And we went through that conversation about how we do rule out things we don't have justification for. But if you can't, so you just said that we can't necessarily, because we don't have an experiment for it, we can't rule out.
No, we can't falsify it. Falsification and ruling it out are different.
Okay,
I'm making a distinction there. Yeah, so falsification is like proof that it's false, right? Ruling out is you would rule something out when you have a justification, when you have a reason to dismiss an idea, to not believe the idea.
So if you can't prove that so if you can't prove that something is false, how do you rule it out as an idea?
Because you can still have reasons to not think it's true.
But aren't those reasons to think that it's not true based on what we know, not what we don't know?
Of course, it's based on what we know. That's how we reason.
So okay. So if there are things that we don't know, then we can't falsify that God could be a reason to prove.
I agree that it's not falsifiable. The claim is that it can still be ruled out despite not being falsifiable. For example, one cannot falsify the claim that there exists an invisible orbiting teapot around Jupiter, right? How would you falsify that? It's invisible. Can't see it. And yet we can still rule that out. We can still rule that out by reasoning about what it would mean for an invisible floating teapot to orbit Jupiter. How it would have gotten there, why it would be there, the things that it would do. We can still rule it out because we can reason about what kind of way the world would be if that kind of thing were possible. We're not doing empirical tests to check for an invisible teapot. We're reasoning about the way the world would be if an invisible teapot existed.
Because then there could be like many different invisible teapots like everywhere.
Well, no, because then it's like, okay, well, it's a teapot, it's invisible. Does that mean that it's made out of something that's invisible? What's invisible? Well, there aren't any invisible atoms. We know that dark matter is invisible. Is the teapot made out of dark matter? Why did the dark matter arrange itself in such a way to be a teapot? Because dark matter isn't supposed to interact with itself. Well, if it's not supposed to interact with itself, it certainly couldn't form a structure like a teapot. And if there was a teapot, that would seem to indicate that there's an invisible person who would be drinking the tea. So like there's just a lot of implications. If it were true that the teapot existed, then there'd be a lot of strange features about the world that we don't observe. And so this is evidence against the teapot.
Okay, sure. But then apply that same reasoning to theism.
Yeah, okay,
right?
Great. Okay, so if there was a god that was playing a role here, then we expect that god to be able to intervene in the natural natural phenomena that we see.
Why would a god not
because
just
that's exactly what it's doing. That's
exactly
why
wouldn't there be a god? Okay, hold on. Why wouldn't there be a god of dark matter? Right? Why wouldn't
I don't understand. That god would be directly intervening in a supernatural way. That's the point. Right?
You're right. So, if he's just intervening in dark matter, we have reason to think that
supernatural intervention doesn't happen, because as far as we can tell, everything
follows
laws of physics.
If he's just intervening in dark matter, though, then he wouldn't. But
dark matter obeys laws of physics too. Dark matter obeys laws of physics too.
Okay, so maybe there's a god that, a god of dark matter that just abides by the laws of physics.
It doesn't sound like it's a god. Then.
How do we not rule that out?
It doesn't sound like it's a god then. That's like saying, well, maybe there is a fairy. That's maybe the reason why. Maybe the reason why the light bulb works.
Of God, then.
Maybe the reason why the light bulb works is because there's a fairy inside, but the fairy is just there to make sure that the electrons move through the coil. The fairy doesn't create the light. The fairy just makes the electrons move through the coil.
By that definition, it should be reasonable for everyone to at least be. Oh, no, hold on. Not that's reasonable. Not that's reasonable. But it should be reasonable that then everybody should be at least agnostic, because you can't.
So you can be agnostic and also be an atheist. These are not mutually incompatible. Are you agnostic about the fairy that powers light bulbs?
Well, I'm probably agnostic about the god of dark matter.
What about the fairy that powers light bulbs? Or the
Probably
gremlin
not.
or the gremlin that powers lava lamps. Why not?
Probably not. But agnostic
Why
means that,
not?
okay, I can at least believe in one God, but I can mean that there may not be a God of other things, right? So I could
Wait a
be
minute.
agnostic.
Hold on. You just
I
made an
could be
argument.
agnostic.
You just made an argument for agnosticism towards the god of dark matter. But when I present you with an exactly analogous case for the fairy of light bulbs or the gremlin of lava lamps, you're like, no, I'm not agnostic about those. Why not?
Because it's my choice, and we know how light bulbs work.
Yeah, the point is that they obey laws of physics, but the fairies are just there to make sure that it obeys laws of physics. Just like how the god of dark matter is there to make sure that dark matter obeys laws of physics.
So the physics are a universal thing, right? I mean, there's not like,
yeah, so you don't need a god to explain the physics that dark matter obeys.
you're right. Okay, so I don't need the god to explain the physics about or I don't need a god to explain how dark matter interacts with physics, right? That would be ridiculous. But I could have a god for dark matter.
I don't know.
Not just how it interacts with
What is your
physics.
god for dark matter? What does it do? What does it explain?
Well, in this example, it would just be whatever I want it to be. It would be
No, but
okay. Well, the god,
Like, what does it
the
explain?
god creates dark matter, and the god is the reason
Okay.
why dark matter
So-
moves the way it is.
Well, I mean, physics is the reason why it moves the way it does. That we know. We can observe that. So if you're
Okay.
saying, okay, maybe God created the dark matter, okay, well, then we would expect to see violations of the law of conservation of energy, and we don't see that.
But what if God had already made all the energy within the universe?
So now it's not just God of dark matter, God of the whole universe.
It might be,
Okay.
unless
And
unless you can prove that wrong.
And there might be a
Unless you can
gremlin.
prove that there,
And there might be a
Yeah,
gremlin
unless-
that controls the lava lamp.
no, because we can okay. Well, I thought you were going to go to the light bulb. We could prove how there isn't a fairy controlling how the light switch turns on, but we can't necessarily prove how a god might have created all of the energy in the universe.
And we can't necessarily prove how a gremlin might be directing the individual molecules in the
Okay,
lava lamp.
so we're working on the same page here.
Okay,
so
so
since
you're
we-
agnostic. So look, if you will agree that you're agnostic about the gremlin of the lava lamp, I will agree I'm agnostic about the god of creation.
I absolutely think that that's okay.
Okay, I'll take that as a reductio.
I would say I would take that as an additive for the fact that there has to be some sort of type of creationism whenever it comes to a god of creating the energy within the universe.
Why does there have to be?
Well,
You just
because we
went
can't.
from I'm agnostic about it to there has to be it.
Well, agnostic about the fact that we can only believe it up to a certain point with physics, right? But within the gray areas that we don't necessarily understand, or the energy that we don't necessarily understand, we could bring a god in to solve that understanding or provide a reasoning for that gap of knowledge. Like that's not that
You understand?
far-fetched.
You've heard the phrase God of the gaps, right?
Yes.
Okay. You understand that that's what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You understand that historically that has never been successful, right?
Why wouldn't it be successful right now?
I'm just saying that we have reason to think that it's probably not a good method of coming to truth when it's
You're-
historically
okay,
never
no,
been successful. I'm making a
You're right.
probabilistic argument.
Of course, historically, it's never been successful because we have scientific.
But this time it
advancements.
might be.
Why wouldn't it be?
Look, I don't know, man. This isn't real, but there's the meme about how like the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, right? with no changing results. Like it
Yeah,
seems like
yeah.
like why? Look, if you play
Well,
it,
okay.
if you're
we-
playing
we-
if you're
we've
playing
adopted
basketball,
we've adopted
playing-
these scientific principles so many
If you're
times.
playing-
and
if you're
they've
playing
made- and they've
basketball
made
about-
grounds.
if you're playing basketball against LeBron and you lose the first time, and then you lose the second time, then you lose the third time, and then you lose 100 more times, maybe it's just because you're worse at basketball than LeBron.
Okay, but still, I feel like we're getting away from the analogy here. Like, I don't know why we're talking about LeBron.
What I'm saying is that playing basketball against LeBron is like theism trying to go up against the scientific method. It's lost every single time, and you're saying, but this time it's going to win.
Okay, so you're not saying that it's necessarily false, right? You're saying that it just.
I'm saying that we
it
can
can't be
rule it
proven.
out. I'm saying that we
It
can
can't be
rule it
proven.
out. Saying
Why
that
are
we
we
can rule it
saying-
out because
okay,
we have
so then-
reason to believe that it's not true.
We have reason to believe that it's not true because of a series of different scientific explanations that have disproven the God of the gaps and have made scientific advancements of the understanding of the world we know around us, right? So it shouldn't be that the title shouldn't be that creationism is false. It's that creationism cannot be proven. Join if you disagree.
No, I think that saying it's false is the same thing as saying, I mean, when I say it's like when it says creationism is false, obviously the claim here is that like I think it's false, right? I'm not saying that you think it's false. I'm saying like I have a position on this. And when I say it's false, what that means is that I have a justification for thinking it's false.
Yeah, okay, but like so scientifically,
that's what it means.
As a scientist, right? Because I assume that you're a scientist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as a scientist, you shouldn't say that something is 100% false. You should say that something, I wouldn't make that large of a claim. You shouldn't say that something is, or within at least this nature, this discussion is false. You should just say that it cannot be proven, right? Because then
should I say the same thing about the orbiting teacup?
Sure.
Should I say the same thing about the lava lamp gremlin?
Yeah, lava lamp gremlin cannot be proven. It shouldn't be,
and therefore
lava lamp gremlin is false.
Okay, so you would disagree if I came up and I said there is no gremlin that controls lava lamps. You would come up and say, actually, you can't prove that, right?
Well, then it shifts the entire burden of proof to you. And the burden of proof.
I know you want to shift the burden of proof. I know you want to shift the burden of proof. The point is
it's not me trying to shift the burden of proof. It's how you laid out your
I mean, by the way, there are positive non-empirical arguments for a God. There are positive non-empirical arguments for God. These are I just tend to not get into them on these subjects because I like to talk about the science on this particular live day.
Okay, There
are non-empirical philosophical arguments for why a creator God can't exist.
Okay.
Right.
And
so there are reasons to think that creationism is false.
I'm not trying to get into that though.
Right.
I'm just saying.
So
as a scientist,
empirical science is concerned, as far as empirical science is concerned, creationism is absolutely false. Insofar as there is absolutely zero evidence for it, and all of the evidence that we would expect given creationism has never come true. That is what it means to say something is false when we talk about it empirically.
Okay.
Now it could be the case, and I'll just give you another example.
That's not true.
When I say that the Earth is flat,
proven. You wouldn't say that it's false.
No, you can absolutely say it's false.
We haven't discovered absolutely everything.
You can absolutely say it's false.
No, you wouldn't be able to say it's false. You would say, okay,
I can say it's false.
God of the gaps.
Let me give you another analogy. I could say it's false that the Earth is flat, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I can say it's false that the Earth is flat, but I can't prove that we're not all brains in a vat that are living on a flat Earth that are being fed lies through our senses about the globe.
No, but
that means I can't say that the Earth is flat, or that the Earth is flat is false.
You can prove it. It's different whenever you take a thing.
How do you prove it?
You can do many different experiments to see how light bends.
All of those. How can you prove that those are actually happening and they're not just hallucinations being fed to you by the machine overlords that live on the flat Earth?
Probably physics. I mean, okay, you could dive into a completely different argument to say you could say national space agencies of many different countries control all the information that we know about the universe.
Yeah, you could do all of that, and therefore you would say that I can't prove it's false.
You could absolutely argue about you could say that there are many different theories that we've just recently accepted as saying it was just the 1970s that we finally accepted that an asteroid hit the Earth 6 million years ago. These are constantly new theories that are constantly
that's exactly it. But you would say it's ridiculous to say, if I had a live stream that said flat Earth is false, you would say it's ridiculous if somebody came up and said, oh, but you can't prove it's false. You can just say that it's not been proven.
No, you absolutely can say that. But the difference,
what's the difference?
You can absolutely prove that the Earth is not flat through scientific experiments.
Are you sure? Because those scientific experiments could all be hallucinations.
Okay, that's a completely different argument, though. And
No,
then
the point is that we might not be able to trust those scientific experiments. So how can we prove it?
Huh?
How could we prove How could we prove that the scientific experiments are telling us something real about the world?
Well, you kind of just have to take them for what they are.
So you can't prove it.
If
You
you
just have
can't
to
do them
believe it.
yourself, if you can't do them yourself,
You just have to believe it, is what you're telling me. It's not that it's false. It's just you can't prove it true.
Sorry. That's not true. I retract that. The way that we know that it's true is if you can replicate it. If you can replicate those same results within that experiment.
But we're talking about flat Earth being false, not the globe is true, right?
No, well, originally we were talking about it's different because we know and we can prove through our own experiments that we can conduct individually with the physics that we know. Of course,
yeah, but you can't.
Of course, it's the physics that we're buying, the physics that we're told. But you can also
it was all just taught you in a school. You just read it out of a textbook. How do you know it's true?
Well, you can conduct it for yourself. Now that entire reasoning.
How do you know
shifts.
that your hallucination? How do you know that when you conduct it, you're not being fed lies by the global
how do I not know
media
that I'm in a
feeds you
simulation?
hallucination? That's exactly my point. That's exactly my point.
How do I not know I'm in a simulation?
That's my point. That's exactly my point. The level of skepticism that you're demanding that I take regarding creationism is the same level of skepticism as saying that we can't know that the Earth is a sphere because you might be in a simulation. It's the same level of skepticism.
But both are true. You can't necessarily prove that we're not in a simulation, right?
And therefore you would criticize me for saying that the Earth is a sphere or that the Earth is not flat in the same way. Because again, you can't prove that the Earth isn't flat.
Okay, so we've reached a common ground then.
Okay, so you agree that and by the way, this is reductio too. You agree that if I had a background that said flat Earth is false, you would come up and say, "Oh well, you can't prove that. You can't prove that because what if you're in a simulation? Then the Earth might really be flat, and you could never know." That's what you would do?
Well, I could say that, we're in a simulation. Everything that we've been taught, our physics is completely manufactured, and therefore we can't accept anything about our own reality.
Yeah, and so you would say, you would say that, like, I can't put that as my background.
Absolutely buy that, right? You as a scientist could absolutely buy that because you have no way to prove.
You
have no way to prove that it's wrong.
Right, and so you think that it would be unreasonable for me to have a background that says flat Earth is false?
Yeah, okay, so you just said, yeah, that would be right because you have no way to prove that it's wrong. If you have no way to prove...
I think I said exactly the opposite. I said, no, I would reject that. But what I'm asking is, if I had that background, let's say a background like, I don't know, say this one? If I had this background, you would be, oh no, flat Earth isn't dead because you can't say flat Earth is dead. How do you prove that, right?
Well, that argument still could, yes, absolutely be taken.
All right. I'm glad that we're in agreement that, like, you know, we can't prove anything. Nobody knows anything. We can't say anything definitively because there's always a degree of agnosticism, and so nobody should claim to know anything. Got it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for having this discussion with me.
All right, Harpoon. Take care. I'm some crazy bullet bites. All right, I did say I'd bring up a guest from Discord next, so I'll do that in a moment, but I'm just going to hydrate first. All right, let's read some super chats. And by the way, if you guys want to support me, if you want to support me trying to buy a new car, because I need to get a new car, because gas is expensive and my current car is very gas inefficient, super chats are a great way to do it. Patreon is a great way to do it. If you want to become a member, a regular subscriber, there's also Cash App. There is a Venmo that will be posted on the website eventually. I just need to get around to it. And of course, you know, buy me a coffee, various links in various places. Anyway, from BTA Debates with the $5, have you ever crashed out on a stream? Maybe, but in like an exasperated way, right? From Tim Davidson with the $5, I am an agnostic apathetic atheist. I do not know if there's a God. All said, I do not care if there's a God, but I honestly do not believe in a God. Yeah, that sounds about right. From C Design proponentist with the 2 Canuck bucks, kid, Google argument from ignorance plus incredulity. Yeah, I mean, that's what he was doing. And from Mr. Lint with the $5, every god of the gaps argument spawns a new teapot in orbit around Jupiter. True, that's why there are so many teapots in orbit around Jupiter. All right, let's bring up Flubbermaid. Flubbermaid from Discord. Flubbermaid, how's it going?
Oh,
You're on.
oh wow. Hello.
Howdy, Flubbermaid.
Forgive me if I don't really have an argument again. I have one argument against, I think, the wording, but I think you might have already addressed it.
Okay, well, I'm not interested in the semantic debate, so I'm gonna let you go.
Wait. It's not necessarily that. It's a bit more.
If it's about the wording, it is a semantic debate.
Well, okay. Forgive me. I'm a little pissed off at National Instruments right now. Taking
What?
forever to download my stuff. So I figured I'd hop in and have a discussion with you, because I am interested in your take. And I do enjoy your videos trying to debunk the quantum woo and all that stuff.
Well, I'm glad you do, but I'm gonna let you go. Thanks for being here, Flubbermaid. Good luck with your Texas Instruments stuff. Tobin, you are on the live.
Hi, Dr. Blitz. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. Tobin, do you think that the world was created?
Yeah, honestly, I just had some questions about like how some things in quantum mechanics work. It's really been confusing me. If we talked about creationism, I probably would agree with most of the stuff you say, to be honest.
Then I gotta let you go. I have Ask a Physicist every Tuesday and Wednesday, though, so you can come back tomorrow, and at around 10:30 Pacific time, I'll be taking guests to answer questions.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
Likewise, take care. All right, let's bring up Jesus Theism. What a name.
Hello.
Jesus Theism, how's it going?
It's going good. Sorry about that, I paused. I was trying to think of something funny to say, I couldn't think of anything.
That's good, it's fine, don't worry about it. So Jesus Theism, I'm gonna take it that you are a Muslim.
No.
Ah, rats.
I'm not
Almost had
Christian.
it, okay. You know what, that was my second guess. So, okay, I take it that you think that the world was created, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that the world was created 6,000 years ago, or do you think that it was the Earth
older
formed 4.5 billion years?
I don't think that the Bible, I don't think the Bible necessarily teaches that the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is Matt, huh?
Hello?
Matt Davids.
Hello.
Hi. Why do you have to change your name to try to get onto my live? Let's talk to Slytherin Prefect.
Afternoon.
Slytherin Prefect, how's it going?
Good evening. Or good afternoon.
It's morning where I am, but sure. So Slytherin.
Right.
Can you hear me all right?
Yep, go ahead. Sorry, just put my earbuds in.
You're good. So do you think that the world was created?
I do. And I guess my question to you would be this. And I spent a lot of my life going in and out through religion, big into physics, quantum mechanics. I'm a Marvel fan, and I'm open to debate. I guess my first question would be this to you is, where does your lust for the truth end?
Where
So
does
I guess
my
the
lust
question
for truth end?
Yes, and the reason why I ask
Hasn't ended
this
yet.
is because I think about quantum immortality. And the reason why I'm going to disagree with your creationism is false is because we actually exist here already. And if you are a fan of Marvel, I'm just essentially going to compare it to like the Book of Ashanti. That anyone that could figure out quantum mechanics on the deepest level of the dimensions, interspatial, time on the fourth, acceleration up to 12, and I think they're at like, what, 33 dimensions now? I have to imagine that we're already simulated, that this here planet Earth, in my I guess, professional opinion, would be that this is like the omniverse, and we are all in the multiverse. So,
Did
for
you say
example,
professional opinion?
Yeah, well, I consider myself a professional.
A professional of what?
Military physics, let's just put it that way.
Military physics? Does that
Correct.
include like quantum mechanics?
It does. But I wouldn't say that I have equivalent of a doctorate. I'm more like on the bachelor master's level. So I'm very open to like.
Cool. Can you tell me what a Hilbert space is?
Hilbert space?
Yeah.
I do not know that off the top of my head. No. Sorry.
Okay, that's the first thing that you learn in a quantum mechanics class.
So I have not gone to college for that. So that's what I mean. My on-the-job experience would be probably equivalent to like a senior bachelor or like an early master's. So that's why I'm very open to the debates. So that's why I'm not necessarily coming at you in an offensive way. It's more of this is the way I see it from an Occam's razor perspective that's kind of sitting outside. I'm trying to follow physics. I'm trying to follow theology all at the same time, right? So I guess where I'm getting with the creationism is, then tell me if I'm wrong here, okay? That if the Book of Ashanti exists, that's in the omniverse, meaning that everyone in the multiverse has access to the Book of Ashanti, and the Book of Ashanti exists as one copy, cannot be changed, because it's super governed in a superseding way to the multiverse. So that's kind of how I think about Earth. We, you, I, every one of us represents a multiverse in terms of what we control energy-wise. I'm not saying that there's a universe inside your body. What I'm saying is that you, Dr. Blitz, energy signature, have the ability to control a universe. I think that this Earth is an overlay. I think that the reason why it doesn't make sense in terms of an oblong spheroid or whether it's flat or spherical is that I think that it's the obscurity of everything, that the Bible's a codex. And that's why I think it keeps showing up through all the eons, meaning like all the Gnostic texts, the Dead Sea Scrolls, all of
a codex is just a name for a book, right?
Right. So that's what I think the Bible is, though. I think it's a codex of every. Right. But I think it's a codex of everything, meaning that like when you read it, whatever type of, I say this word loosely, whatever species of animal you are, you understand it differently than any other species of animal. So are we all Homo sapiens? Yes. But I think that our ability to categorize people into one single segment is very, I don't know the right word, like the politically correct word to say, but like, that's like saying all animals are in the animal kingdom and there's no tigers, lions, fish, nothing like that, right? Like, I think that's how we quantize humans. So I think that in the Homo sapien category,
humans now.
Well, we quantize animals and we quantize our behavior.
Maybe you mean something else besides quantize. Look, you know that.
Maybe I do.
You know that.
Go ahead.
The MCU
so that's what I mean. I'm open to the debate.
You know that the MCU is fiction, right?
Correct, of course. But it's based off of what? Dreams and imagination, right? Is that not just, again, so Dr. Blitz. So
like dragons and fairy tales.
Right. So here goes my question. Where does your lust for this truth or answers ever get satiated, right?
Who knows,
so let's say, for example, oh, right. So that's my issue. That's my issue right here. You say
where's the issue?
That you say creationism is false. But when are you ever satiated? You're a hedonist. You live life, and no matter
what. When is that satiated? This is a claim. It's not a desire.
Because why are you a scientist right now? Why? What's your stride in this?
Because I care.
What's your skin in the game? What's your skin in the game?
I have no idea what that question means.
So it means like, is there any?
So like in some sense, I guess, but like this seems kind of irrelevant to the topic. Like why should I? Like this is not like creationism is false as a statement. It's an assertion. It's not a desire. So I don't see how.
So what do you do in physics? Are you trying to prove something or disprove something? Why are you in physics?
Because I care about understanding things. That's why.
All right. So are you trying to prove something or disprove something? Right. So is it God? What is it?
I don't care. You don't care either.
All right. Okay. So then that's the issue, brother. And I'm trying to like get right. Okay. But that's just it right there. If somebody comes out and says this is.
What are you talking about?
Okay. Hang on. Hear me out.
I've been hearing you out, man. Go ahead.
All right. If we have a majority of the scientific population that comes forward and said we figured out the singularity with 100% certainty, like a 5 sigma, a 10 sigma, whatever, but it's not Dr. Blitz like sigma level. At what level does Dr. Blitz finally sit down and go, I'm convinced? because you sound like the type that would be the worst to ever be in charge. You can't
5
ever
sigma's
make a
good enough for me.
decision because you're not convinced of
5 sigma's
everything
good enough for me.
anytime.
5 sigma's plenty.
Okay, so so bingo. So if someone came forward with a 5 sigma on creationism, you would then become you would become a theist. You would become a theist as well.
I would go wherever the data says. So if the data is like
Okay,
there's
so
a
that's-
like 5 sigma probability that you know, Jesus resurrected Lazarus, okay, cool.
Well, hang on. Let's just say, for example, that Jesus wasn't actually a person, that it's a story, that there's actually mathematics written to what 3 days in the tomb means, because like we fast for 3 days, right? And dying on the cross could be like
Who's we fasting for 3 days? What are we doing?
Well, so I take care of myself. I'm nutritionally savvy, I guess you could say. 3-day fasting is typically good in a weekly phase. Not the point. What I was getting at was that like for example, Jesus Christ, the light of the world. Does a photon not die on the cross between the electric and the magnetic spectrum? That creates
I have no
a
idea what
photon
that
of light.
means.
So, for example, the electric spectrum and the magnetic spectrum, the electromagnetic spectrum, right?
There's not a separate electric spectrum and magnetic spectrum. There's no such thing.
Correct, because now they're connected.
Don't be condescending. I have been so charitable,
brother. Listen, okay, yes, I understand you have. And okay, I'll take that back. I do not want to sound condescending, but hear me out, brother, on this. Listen, if 2 wires cross, right? The electric wire, imagine before the Big Bang, and the magnetic wire. Yes,
there are no
they're
magnetic
connected
wires
now. But hear me out. What if there was prior? Why do we think that the electromagnetic spectrum was ever combined in its entirety? If it was separated, would not where those two...
Because it's diffeomorphism invariant and covariant.
Okay, but so
That's
then, all right, so follow me the other way then. So follow me the other way in this argument then. A photon of light is only found at where the electromagnetic spectrum binds, correct?
I don't know what you mean when you say where the electromagnetic spectrum binds. These words don't mean anything
meaning
in
that
these
if
orders.
if you were to trace a photon in real time, and then you were able to see the electromagnetic spectrum that binds it, where does that photon sit? Right. Well, okay, but does the electromagnetic spectrum not bind light?
What do you mean bind? The electromagnetic spectrum isn't a thing. It's not like an object. It's not a phenomenon.
Well, yes, it is. Yeah,
no,
yes, it is
not.
because without the
description, it's a description. Maybe you're talking about the electromagnetic field. Is that what you're talking about?
Is that not the exact same thing?
Very, very different.
Okay, so if it's the Higgs field versus the Higgs boson, when a photon of light leaves the sun, what governs that photon from not falling apart? There is an electromagnetic
It's the equations of motion
field
that describe the electromagnetic field. Yeah.
Okay, but again, what prevents that massless particle from falling apart after it's created?
What do you mean by fall apart?
Like the Higgs boson.
It's not made of something smaller, so it's not. It couldn't really fall apart into smaller pieces.
In the same way that the Higgs boson is governed by the Higgs field, what governs the photon? In the exact same way.
The electromagnetic field.
Okay, so so if you were
able
to
say that it governs the photon is probably a mistake. It's something closer to like the photon is an excitation of the electromagnetic field.
Okay, I like that better then. So then the excitation. Can we see the electromagnetic field in this excitation?
All we can see is the electromagnetic field. That's the only things we can see.
So I guess, okay, how about this then? If you were to take the photon as the excitation and flip the image in a negative, could we see what we don't see where the photon disappears and we see everything else in the background? Meaning that, like, what's the negative?
What?
Does that make sense?
Photons are their own antiparticles. There's like a negaphoton.
Not a negative. What's a better way of explaining it? Like, you ever seen a cat running under the rug? And you know how?
Yeah, sure.
So imagine it like that. That's the photon, the cat under the rug. Like it's space-time, right? But I'm not using the word space-time here. I'm using the electromagnetic field, which I guess you could say is tied into space-time, but that's the way I see the photon, like a cat running under the rug. I think that there's a field over and under the photon that squeezes it through space. That's the electromagnetic spectrum.
And on what grounds do you have for this belief of yours?
There we go. It's purely observational. It's just Occam's razor. It's the way I see it as an external observer.
Wait, so it's just like a guess?
Well, yes, correct. It is. Okay. It is a professional guess because
you're not. To be clear, you're not a professional physicist, so I don't know why you would keep adding professional in front.
I'm a professional. I never said professional physicist.
Okay, well, if I said it's my professional opinion that you shouldn't take this medicine,
yeah, correct. I have an opinion. I am a.
Usually that implies that I'm a medical professional. When somebody says that they have a professional opinion, they're usually giving you an opinion that's in their profession.
We'll agree to disagree.
We're just doing like quantum stolen valor or something. Which, as a military person, I imagine you'd be quite sensitive to.
You know, the thing is that on the issues we argue with in the world, this is the last thing I want to just be facetious about, to be honest.
Who's being facetious?
No, I just mean that, like, you know, I see the humor there, but it's like, you know, I'm trying to like
to
talk
be clear,
more like.
I am not joking. You were in the military, yes?
Okay, no, I understand.
You were in the military? Okay. How would you feel if someone who I was never in the military, if I came around and said, you know, in my professional opinion, Operation Desert Storm was actually a secret, a secret conspiracy by the Russians and the Vietnamese to overthrow the lizard Zambians who were interested in stealing the unobtainium that was below the Kuwaiti desert. Like, why? I don't have a professional opinion on this. I'm not a military person. I would be a poser, if you will. And it sounds like that's what you're doing.
So what I'm doing here is, and what I would say in terms of that is that I would first respond with, how long have you had this professional opinion? First off, we go to school, and just because some place is called IV or just some place is called A-list or whatever, that doesn't make you a professional. The first thing I would be open-minded to this lizard claim, and I would say, how long have you had this professional opinion? And if that professional opinion turns into, well, hang on. If that professional opinion turned into, well, for the past 20 years, I've been watching X TV show or X blah, 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 learning about all this stuff, I would say, then I understand what you are as a professional. Because
watching
word
a TV show doesn't make you a professional. Sorry.
But hang on a sec. Hang on. Words are they can be quantized into many definitions, right? There, C, many different ways of saying them and pronouncing them, right? What does somebody actually mean when they say, I'm a professional? You have no clue. I don't know what your
I do know exactly what it means. It means that it is your profession.
Webster's that.
Yeah. It means that it is their profession.
Okay. I mean, honestly.
That's what it means to be a professional.
But if my profession is to be professional, I never said in physics.
There is no such profession where your profession is to be professional. That's not a profession. Being professional is not a profession.
Actually,
being professional,
as a matter of fact, brother,
as
a matter of fact, there is actually a profession, but not for TikTok Live.
There's literally not. Being professional is not a profession. A profession is an occupation or a vocation or an employment. That's what a profession is.
If you were to ask your chat if the occupation of professional exists, run a poll. I'm just saying. Run a poll.
Okay, we'll run a poll. Do it right now.
Is the occupation of professional real? That's it. That's all I want to know.
Give me a. Is the profession of professional real? You have 1 minute. Give me a smiley face if you think yes. If you give me a frowny face if you think no.
Listen, a professional. Come on, really? Do any of you even watch TV?
So we have 10 yeses, 128 no's. Sorry, 10 yeses,
that's pretty good.
162 no's.
Yeah, no, listen, you got it. You got a good chat. You got a supportive chat. You got a good supportive chat. I'm just saying, watch The Jackal, watch John Wick. Come on.
Okay, so by professional, you're just using that as a word to mean like contract killer.
Correct.
Yeah, so contract killer might be a profession. Professional is literally like you're what you're doing is you're equivocating. You're using like a euphemism because you don't want to say what you're doing, which is a form of it's a form of equivocation. But the point is that
but is that
it's just
not a
the
real
case.
reason to use professional? Because wouldn't that be the professional
If you
thing
have
to do
a
in that
professional
situation?
opinion, the implied understanding is that your profession is within the area of jurisdiction, within the subject matter of the thing you are opining on. By the way, it was 18 to 249 is the poll.
Yes, you win. Trust me, you win. You win. Well, I'll make this real quick then. Let me see if I can ask one more question. You've been very generous with your time. Do you believe there's any chance to, I don't want to say the name of the D rug, but it's a 3-letter word, Delta Michael Tango, if you know what that is.
That's not
I'm not sure if you have any back.
Honestly, unsurprising, but no, I don't have any experience with it. I'm not principally opposed to it, but I don't think that we should form our worldviews based on it.
So I guess my question would be this then real quick, is that are you open to any possibility that, and basically in that therapy of that D rug, is that it can be used to talk to your internals. So when they talk about seeing all these different elves or going to the machine city, that it's actually allowing you to talk to all of your cells and organs in your body, that's their sentience. Is there any argument or any type of openness in your mind as a physicist professionally that this place is where we are each our own universe, meaning that you, Dr. Blitz, govern your body hundreds of trillions of cells, and those hundreds of trillions of cells could equate to planets, galaxies, universe, whatever, but that you are responsible for them? No? Okay.
No.
Hey, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
Just out of curiosity, before you had experience with this particular pharmaceutical, did you hold these views?
Well, no. So I've never had use with these pharmaceuticals recreationally. Your brain produces them naturally in the pineal gland. So I don't use them in terms of
call it
smokable
a pharmaceutical if you're just talking about the stuff that lives inside of you automatically. Yeah.
Well,
so I generally think that we shouldn't form positions when we are under the influence of pharmaceuticals. Especially pharmaceuticals that are known to influence
that
the
I'm
mind
making some
significantly.
sort of claim that I do use it, that I don't, because I don't. What I'm trying to actually say is that your brain does produce it. That's why I'm making the argument here.
I'm aware. I don't see why that would be relevant for the question that you asked.
Well,
although,
because I think
that
what that's used for is to talk to our body, meaning that it's an internal reflection.
Have you haven't had an experience with this though, so.
Right. So I follow a lot of people online that have these experiences. They have in-depth. There was a guy that just did a 5-hour session. He's been in the military and he's gone through his whole experience. The one thing that really draws me to these experiences is that the argument is that for the past 4,000 years, every culture around the world that has risen and fallen and using this, rug, that they've always said they've met the same entities, right? And the only thing that I can bind that matches all of them together, I mean, it's Incans, it's Mayans, it's all over the planet, and they say they meet the same beings. The only thing that's equal amongst all of them in the Occam's razor sense is that they're all Homo sapiens, they're all humans.
By the way, it's not clear to me that any cultures historically used dimethyltryptamine. Or dimethyltryptamine.
I believe it goes back to South America, about
I don't think it's naturally occurring as a thing that can be extracted and smoked or extracted and eaten or whatever. Right?
Is it not from the cactus? Is that not peyote or
peyote? I don't think peyote is the same thing as dimethyltryptamine.
But I believe it does come naturally from a toad or something. It's like licking the back of a toad or something. There is a natural way to get this. It's on warts or something. It's on
peyote
some animal.
And DMT are distinct. I mean, DMT is in a lot of things, but nobody's really using, as far as I can tell, and I'm just doing some searching because this isn't my area of expertise. This is not a professional opinion, but from what I can see online, this is not the kind of thing that you can isolate from the natural world without sophisticated chemistry.
Right. So, but that goes back to these cultures like the Incans, the Mayans, living in the forest. They knew how to do it.
No, I
don't think they knew how to do it though.
I don't think that you have any evidence.
They have documented use of this in their shaman, any shaman ritual, basically. Any culture that has shamans essentially plays with those. That's one of the first ones they get. anything involving shamans brings you down this path with that type of religion or
And
culture.
so just to be clear,
and for the past 4,000
do we
years,
agree that and we can do some things. We can go a few different ways, but suppose for a moment that this is true, that there is a DMT producing substance in the Americas, then it's just not true that this is true about every single culture of over the last 4,000 years, because not all cultures are in the Americas.
Agreed.
So then why would seems like that we that's
well,
just not the
because
case.
this is going off the ones that we do have documentation. What I'm trying to say is that the ones we have documentation that have used this, they were separated.
Only spread across the Western Amazon within the past few hundred years.
There was other things besides ayahuasca. So the Amazon was created by man.
Distinct thing. Okay.
So the rainforest was created by man. All the stuff that grows in there lives and dies very quickly.
How do you feel
there's
about Joe
many
Rogan?
other things. Listen, Joe Rogan is very difficult to listen to because for the first the first 30 seconds or 1 minute of his rant, he really does hit a topic that a lot of people are interested in. It's interested in scientific, but then after like a minute or two, he starts going down rabbit holes, and that's where I get lost. So that's listen. I think that Joe is good for everyone because it shows you how crazy people can get on very serious topics. I just think it's a good thing to have on the open. I think that I don't like him or hate him because I can't listen to more than a couple minutes.
Do you think that like the things that he says he should be more self-aware about?
Well, the problem is if he's not more self-aware, who would be, right? Like he goes on his show and does smelling salts with all these like big tough guys. And I kind of say, you know, who else would be doing that if it's not Joe Rogan? And I'm kind of like, you know what? Maybe just let him do it. He's living his life. And I kind of say, like, let him talk the conspiracy, let him give him a minute or two and kind of see where that goes. But once you give him a couple minutes, you're in the show for 3 hours and you're smelling salts and you're doing this all the crap in his refrigerator. So I like the guy for about like 2 minutes. That's essentially how it works. Every episode, you got about 2 minutes, Joe.
Because like the rest of it's nonsense, right?
Well, yeah, I guess you could say it's nonsense. I wouldn't say it's all nonsense, but it's down the rabbit hole.
Okay, and you would think that, like, you know, we probably shouldn't take that seriously.
Well, the problem with that is he exists, right? And the moment you don't take him seriously is when, like, he's the one that says, oh, the sky is falling, and none of us listen to him. That's like the Chicken Little story. So the fact that he does exist, I think he just exists in terms of like an alarm. The louder he gets, the louder the carbon monoxide alarm is. The louder he screams, the louder the smoke detector is. I think that that's where he is, because if we ignore him, the moment he's the one that sees the Titanic about to hit the iceberg and no one listens, we all die.
It sounds like that the pertinent thing that he should do then, if he wants to make sure that nobody gets hurt, is that he should like be a little bit more self-aware and stop spreading nonsense, right? So that people will listen to him when he sees something legitimate.
I do agree with that, but that I think that honestly, this is going to lead us to like the surveillance state, because I think everybody just needs to be connected. I think that if you can't verify it for yourself, that's a problem. If you have to rely on someone else's professional opinion or whatever it is to get your answers, that's your number one problem in this life. Is that if you can't see it, touch it, smell it, or verify it yourself, I'm only trusting that CERN actually exists. Right? Like the Swiss Alps. I've never been there, seen it on a map, seen it on Google, seen it on my phone, seen pictures, seen videos, but I have not physically been there. And this idea
you don't think that the Swiss
reality
Alp exists?
There's an argument that quantum reality is only rendered when you look at it. So
that's a thing that somebody could say.
Right. So I'm saying until I physically go to the Swiss Alps, I can't say with certainty it does exist. I've never been there. I can only say with certainty that the shit I've ever seen, touched, what I'm doing right now, this phone, that's the only thing I know is certain. That's it. That's the way I look at it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
Okay. So what does any of this have to do with creationism?
No, I remember I came up and I just basically asked you, I said, well, would you see it as like the meeting place Earth? Like, that's why it seems so ridiculous, right? If you were to think of the Earth like a flat plane, why can't there be dirt on top of the Earth and dirt on the bottom of the Earth? right? Like, because if you
What?
think about it, the Earth is not. Hang on.
Wait,
The
hold
Earth,
on.
The Earth.
Why do we just go to flat Earth?
Well, because I was making an argument just as you asked me why we came up here, and you kind of already answered that about the Marvel thing.
What it has to do with creationism.
Right, and I said that's where I already figured out where you feel about that. So creationism is.
But I still don't know how you feel about it.
How I think it was created. I think that this
what?
is again. This is, so I believe in the monad. So that's what I believe in. That there is a pantheon of. So in a pantheistic view, the monad is the source of everything.
Okay,
male and female in one, so in a singular source of energy. And then there are lower gods that are mirrored images of this source entity, but it embodies all of us, meaning that it is one star, it is one energy, it embodies every bit of creation from the animals, to humans, to the flowers, to the animate, to the inanimate. That's where it comes from.
So
that's the way I look at it.
Do you think that the monad has intention?
It has intention because it has no intention. It's the
that
duality.
Doesn't make any sense.
Everything. I'm a very black and white guy, so I believe in just the duality of as above, so below.
It's usually black or white, not black and white.
Right, but it can be black and white in a duality. So it's black or white, then it could be black white or white black. That's what a duality is. And then there's correct, and then there's shades of gray.
Of black and white, or black or white.
Okay, but so this is what makes the duality of a yin yang work. And there is actually physics and written papers on how this would play out.
It doesn't have intention, it does have intention?
Yeah, that's what's crazy about it.
Well, it does sound crazy.
It doesn't have intention because it doesn't have intention because it has intention of not having intention. It has intention because it has no intention.
We're just affirming contradictions now?
Well, that's the paradox of Pandora, man. That's what the monad is, man. It's Pandora's box.
What does that have to do with Pandora? Look. So it just sounds like you're saying that it has intention. You're saying that it has intention, so it has no intention. This is just a direct contradiction that you're affirming.
So the monad is considered the entity which is a living contradiction.
Okay, so look, if your worldview requires that you believe that true contradictions can obtain, then I just think that we have a reason to reject your worldview.
Ooh, I do believe true contradictions can. I absolutely can. A walking contradiction can walk.
We have good reasons to reject your worldview then. Namely that contradictions are strictly false. You believe that your worldview entails that they're true, therefore your worldview is false.
But if contradictions can't walk, then how is it that there are many different definitions for words, right? So like if I
because words mean different things in different words mean different things in different contexts. When we're talking about contradictions, what we mean, we're not talking about semantic confusion. We're talking about actual contradictions. Things like a married bachelor. Married bachelors cannot exist because married means that they are, or bachelor means that they are unmarried. A married unmarried person can't exist.
What's married? Can be married to the job.
Whatever it means, whatever married means, to be a bachelor is to be not that.
Right,
you can't be a married unmarried person.
So
unless you're equivocating.
All right, so married could mean you're connected to the state. You're married.
But you're equivocating now. You're equivocating.
Well,
right.
But this is why I'm saying a walking contradiction can exist.
I'm not talking about something that sounds contradictory but isn't, because you're just using words in a different way. I'm talking about an actual contradiction.
Right, but words describe contradiction in the physical, and without words, you can't describe. Without
words point to meanings.
If you do not have words, you cannot describe what you're looking at in the physical. So if you cannot use one set of words to describe a contradiction, I can use any language on this planet of the thousands of languages that exist.
Words don't mean words.
And sound. They don't, because C means different things in different languages. C means yes in Spanish. C in English means the ocean and a body of water. They both sound exactly the same. It's the letter C. It's C meaning yes.
Surely you're not just being like intentionally obtuse. You know what I mean when I say true contradictions.
I'm being
in the same
intentional
way, right?
because it's not my intention. That's my point.
Okay, so do you think
that is my point?
Do you think that something can be in the same way, both married and unmarried, in the same way at the same time?
Yes, I do, because I believe in the quantum superposition. Sure do.
Quantum superpositions are not being married and being not married in the same way at the same time.
Yeah, it is until you observe the marriage. It's not married or unmarried.
Yeah, can you tell me what a quantum superposition is? Like fundamentally what it is?
Yeah, sure. So Schrodinger's cat essentially is saying that if there's a radioactive isotope and a cat inside a box.
Sounds like you're about to give me an example. That's not what I was asking for. I was asking for a definition.
I mean, it's that nothing can be made certain. I guess is that the uncertainty principle? That's like nothing can be made certain until it's observed.
No, that's not the uncertainty principle.
I guess it's nothing can be made certain until it's observed.
No, that's not what that's not what superposition. No, not even close. No,
you're talking about the superposition. I thought you were talking about Schrodinger's cat.
We're talking about
it's
superposition.
All states at once. It can be in all states, up or down of the.
No, that's not what superposition is.
What is a superposition?
A superposition, a state in superposition is merely a linear combination of basis or of eigenstates for some Hamiltonian. All it is.
Right. So is that not all possibilities in one?
Nope.
I mean, honestly, brother, you're an academic to me because it's like you can't explain this shit to a 6-year-old, right? Right, and that's the issue, brother. Like we need geniuses in this field. That's the problem. We have too many academics, brother. You're over here talking about Heisenbergs and all these
academic?
I think that a genius can explain what you're talking about to a 6-year-old. I think you're an academic making it very difficult. I think that's the way you see things.
I could very well simplify this for you, but my point is that you don't know enough to be. Look. The reason why I went.
That's the problem.
The reason why I read too much. Yeah. The reason why we went through this exercise. The reason why we went through this exercise is because I wanted to demonstrate
that you're smarter than me, right? You want to demonstrate.
No. Actually, if you listened to me, I would explain why we went.
That's what you're doing.
If you listened, by the way, your audio just got really crap. So if you listened to me, I would explain to you why we did that, and I promise you it was not in bad faith. The reason why we went through that exercise is because you were making very strong assertions, very confident assertions, and so I was just checking, do you have the requisite knowledge to be able to reasonably make those assertions? Because if you don't, then I have no reason to trust anything that you're saying about them. If you don't know what a superposition is, how can you make any reasonable claims about them? Why should any of that be trusted or believed?
Okay, so my idea of the superposition is the way quantum entanglement works, electron energy states up and down through the orbital cloud, that these work in all positions, up or down, left or right, no matter what. If you were to split them apart, that superpositioned particle, that one will always be up and one will always be down because they are all possibilities at once. That's how I talk to children, man, and that's how I relate to
people. You lie to them?
I'm
it's
just
wrong.
saying, like, dude, how is that wrong?
It's strictly false. Superposition doesn't have anything to do with up and down.
Okay,
like superposition is a far broader concept than merely a superposition of an up eigenstate and a down eigenstate.
Okay, so then why? Okay, so then answer me this: then why an entanglement is it up or down in the
It's not always up and down. It in fact, in almost every single entanglement experiment, it's clockwise and counterclockwise.
What do you mean by that? Which way is the arrow pointing? Left and right?
In the direction of the momentum of the photon.
Okay, so since there's no up or down in space, y'all are just saying shit up and down, is what you're saying. It's just
there's an eigenbasis in which you can describe spin up or spin down relative to a relevant magnetic field. Photons don't do that.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so you guys are bullshitting too. What you're not telling in that is that, because let me explain why you're bullshitting in this. Because when you say that one is up or one is down, no one of the lay mind is understanding that there is a false overlay magnetic above and down that are relaying that up and down. In reality, that particle could be left or right or at any vector of the 360 in a spherical, and y'all are just putting it out there that it's one pointed up and one pointed down.
You were mad at me for being too academic. I'm not the kind of person who says that shit.
Listen.
I'm sorry. I guess I was the correct one. Well, you sound upset that people were simplifying it for you. So do you want people to explain it to kindergartners, or do you want the actual truth?
If I could have a conversation with Professor Brian Greene about his inability to talk to physics to 6-year-olds, I would love to spend that time with Brian Greene instead of you. But you are an academic on TikTok that has a live that knows about physics, and I clicked join the live.
You did.
So if you know Dr. Green, I live in New York City.
I don't know him personally. I'm sure that you could go to Brian Green's office hours because he is still actively teaching, if I remember correctly.
No,
and he's
it's impossible to talk to
so.
him. He's very pretentious. You can't get anywhere near his office. He does not accept any open door policy. You got to like talk to this guy like through intermediaries. I've already tried many times.
Okay.
So that's the problem. Is that all your cosmopolitan?
I'm pretty sure that Brian Green would tell you the same thing that I told you.
I mean, I would love to hear it because he has like every year, was it Science Fest here in the city? He runs it, but he's impossible to talk to. And same with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Why are you only going towards celebrities?
Right, that's the problem because the celebrities are the ones that the 6-year-olds hear on TV. That's the problem.
Are you a 6-year-old?
Is that no? I'm not a 6-year-old, but you should be able to explain it to a 6-year-old.
So look, if you're not a 6-year-old, I shouldn't need to explain it to you as if you were a 6-year-old. I should be able to explain it to you as if you're an adult.
The problem is that as an adult, you can't confirm or deny everyone's education throughout their childhood. And a lot of people lie about how they were taught. So you can't assume that everyone has had the basic fundamentals of sticks and stones and shapes and all the primary education that we get here in America. I want to know of a physicist that can explain to a 6-year-old all this crap so that everyone can understand.
I don't think quantum mechanics can be explained to a 6-year-old, to be honest.
I mean, well, there we go. That's what a genius is. There we go. That's what a genius
is. A 6-year-old?
No, so Einstein said that in order to understand everything, you got to go out into nature, right?
That wasn't even Einstein. That wasn't Einstein. Didn't say that.
No, hang on. I believe this was Einstein that in order to be a genius, you have to be able to explain it to a 6-year-old. Otherwise, you're an academic.
That literally was.
Well,
Einstein.
Then maybe it was just misleading. So I can't. Yeah. Right. So I'm not going to give it to him. But that's what I thought it came along.
By the way, Einstein. His name is synonymous with genius. How's it going, Einstein?
Correct.
You know, we use the word Einstein to mean genius.
Correct,
he couldn't explain general relativity to a 6-year-old, and he invented it. So I guess he wasn't a genius.
So that's where I say our definition of words comes into play with these contradictions in reality. Everything's based off of general relativity. And the only reason that even he got a Nobel Prize was the photoelectric effect.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so he only got it for the photoelectric. So the idea that we base everything off of general, well, not only, but that based off general relativity, and then we're trying to meld this with quantum mechanics. I have a problem with a guy that works in a patent office and that therefore then finds all the answers to everything. There's just
he wasn't working at a patent office when he came up with general relativity, right?
I understand that, but again, this is just.
I think he was working at a patent office for 2 years.
Why haven't we had another Einstein? This is my problem in general with life. We haven't had an Einstein in over a generation, right? That's
apparently
what we're missing.
You wouldn't even pay attention to them because they might be working at a patent office.
Well,
or
the
hosting
idea
a TikTok
is this,
live, not to toot my own horn.
I'm not too sure who made this quote, but someone said, "Do we need a new Einstein or do we need a new Hubble?" And
that just sounds like a question. I don't know if that's a particularly
well, yeah. So the question was that when the Hubble telescope went up, right? That's when we learned that the universe was flying apart with the redshift and blue shift of the galaxies.
No, we found that out.
Yes,
Edwin Hubble discovered that over 100 years ago.
Correct. So didn't I just say with the Hubble telescope?
The Hubble telescope was launched into space in the 90s.
Right, but wasn't it Hubble's telescope?
No,
it was based off of his.
No.
Why'd they call it Hubble then?
Because we name things after famous scientists.
Wasn't it to verify Hubble's predictions?
No.
I think you should check that up. That's the whole point of why we launched Hubble.
No, we launched Hubble. I mean, the Hubble. Well, we weren't looking for blue shift. The Hubble telescope was a general purpose visible light telescope. The Hubble telescope is a general purpose visible light telescope. It's not specifically designed for one purpose. It's been used for exoplanet discovery, I think. It's been used for monitoring our own solar system. It has been used to look at distant galaxies. It's been used for a lot of different purposes. It wasn't specifically for measuring redshift.
So follow me on this end. This is where I say this is the academic in you. You're like blowing apart what I'm even getting at here. You're going down your own rabbit hole, and that's not even what I mean. Hubble gave a brand new way of looking at things, right? The galaxies are flying away from each other. Einstein didn't come up with that. The question I'm asking is, my question is, Are we too stuck Einsteinian right now, or are we still too stuck Hubble-y now? Meaning that what is physics and science actually doing in the world today? And maybe we need a new Hubble or a new Einstein. Because I love that, you know, the CERN Large Hadron Collider is building like a 10-mile ring, going to be open in 4 years. Great, I love it. But how do we know that you people that are doing this stuff are not going to blow up the planet? Right?
Because
like, how do we now?
We can quantify these things.
Right, but
pretty easy.
Okay, but hang on. Remember, Dr. Blitz, when I asked you when
nobody's going to blow up the
hang
planet.
on, hang on. Dr. Blitz, remember when I asked you before, when does your lust for satiation become valid?
Yeah,
when
we know
they
that,
built
we're
this
not going to blow up the planet because already the Large Hadron Collider is 27 kilometers around, which is
okay. Hang on.
15 miles around already, so it's already bigger than 10.
Hang on.
Second fact, we see far more energetic collisions happening in the atmosphere from natural forces, natural causes, than we can ever produce in a million years.
Dr. Blitz,
so no, we're not going to blow up the Earth by making a particle collider.
Right. So let me get to I'm trying to jump right to the point here. Is that when they're done building the next one, they say that in order to build a Dyson sphere, and in order to use type 1 civilization on Michio Kaku's list of type 3 civilizations,
it's Kaku.
Like a point.
Michio Kaku didn't invent that list. Do you know anything?
Well, so when he was talking about it on his show, there we go, he was saying that we're like a 0.5 civilization. Now, he said something along the lines of the collider that would be necessary in order to harness a Dyson sphere would need to be the size of about our solar system.
You don't need a collider to harness a Dyson sphere.
So why are we building colliders then? What's the purpose?
To study particle physics.
Okay, so then let me ask you this then. If we built a collider the size of the solar system, why would we need that? For what purpose in physics, please?
To study
just whatever
particle
the purpose
physics.
would need. Right, how big? Where? Why would we need one as big as our galaxy? For what purpose?
Well, our galaxy and the solar system are not the same thing, and the relevant physics at the solar system scale, if I remember correctly, is actually the Planck scale. That's the relevant scale that we would need a large, very large particle accelerator. So we could study string theory, basically.
All right, so we're talking about the Planck scale where there's more more Plancks in 1 second than there are seconds since the Big Bang, right? We're talking about now going from the the particle accelerator the size of the solar system because you want to study the galaxy and all the other superclusters of everything. My point is this: when are you going to blow us all up? Because you're not convinced of everything you see in front of you. It's not the planet, it's the solar system. It's not the solar system, it's the galaxy. It's not the galaxy, it's the local group. It's not the local group, it's the large.
Nobody's building a galaxy-sized solar system. This is not a thing that's happening. There's no plans for it.
Yeah, until after the 10-mile one, there's a 25-mile one, there's a planet-sized one, there's one that extends to Mars, then to Jupiter, then it's the solar system.
You know what? Maybe it would be good for us. You know what? Maybe it would be good for us to
You people never stop.
This
is why the Titanic crashed, because you people don't stop. You don't know when to be satiated.
I thought you said that you weren't on dimethyltryptamine.
No, because I'm trying to figure out when you put down the book.
Hold on, shut up for a second. The Titanic crashed because they weren't trusting their radar or whatever, and there was an iceberg that they didn't believe was there. That's why the Titanic crashed. What does that have to do with science?
The problem I have with that argument is that it was the first liner to be able to sail from. Yeah, the problem I have with that argument you're saying right there is that was the first ship designed to be able to go across the ocean and not sink, and every single ticket on there minus this.
What?
Hang on.
Do you hear yourself?
Hang
Columbus
on.
sailed across the ocean. You've been talking so much. You've been talking so much.
My sentence at least, so at least you understand.
Like, professional iceberg, good meme. Like, Christopher Columbus sailed across the ocean blue. That was like the whole thing. The age of exploration? How did people get here? How did white people get here anyway? All right, let's read some super chats and I'll move on to our next. That was wild. Crazy. That was a real person. From Dr. Fudge with the $10. Are we all Homo sapiens or are we dancers? Maybe we may be dancers, yeah. From Skeptical Dilettante with the $20. Thank you so much, Skeptical. I do appreciate it. Stolen Valor Quantum Mechanics was not my bingo card. Good luck with your new car, bud. If you're interested in a custom mech keyboard and have a P.O. box, let me know. I'd love to build one for you. I don't have a P.O. box. I probably will get one eventually, but I don't have one yet. And I like my keyboard. From Matt Lloyd with the £5. I have a master's degree equivalent knowledge. What's a Hilbert space? I don't know. I wasn't going to donate today, but MCU guys gold. Yeah, like, why would people... Why would they do this? Why do they do this to me? It's because they personally hate me, right? From Ricky CC with the $8 Australian. What is your epistemology and metaphysics? Would I be wrong in assuming scientific realism? Thanks for the entertaining debates. I'm pretty agnostic about many of these things. I take it that there is an external world, but that's basically that's more of my ontology than, or perhaps my metaphysics than epistemology. I think that there are a bunch of different, like, I'm a pluralist about a lot of epistemologies too, so, you know, hopefully that informs your position. From Ekapo with the €6, taking substances and watching cartoons in your head doesn't count as research. No, it doesn't, but neither does taking substances and watching YouTube videos. From Binary Ghost with the $5, in my professional opinion, if you just do these drugs, you'll agree with my point of view. This guy, he didn't even do them himself. From Birdkeeper Mikey with the $5, anytime you get a military member, ask them when they get their DD214. This guy's a troll. Even military special forces say their job's name. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really believe him, but it was useful as a talking point. From Simeon Urchin with the $2, the Amazon was made by man. What is he on? DMT? Yeah, that was exactly it. That was the point. From Orion Cooper with the $2, Rogan mentioned bingo. I win a facepalm. I'm sorry. From Ricky with the $3 Australian, math professional versus can't say it on the live stream professional. From Christopher Sanford with the £5, of all the unsettling things this caller has said, I talk to children has to be the one that concerns me the most. Did he say that? I must have missed it. From Simeon Urchin with the $2, I tried before. Oh, Green got a restraining order. That would be so funny though if that were real. That would be amazing if that were real. From Jack Fetter with the $10. I so appreciate your channel, but why do you entertain morons? If you can't explain quantum mechanics to a zygote, it's you, not the zygote. For fuck's sake. I would have hung up after 5. I mean, it is entertainment for me. Like, it's cathartic. So, you know, take that for what you will. Also, this is what you guys like. You guys like it too. So, you know, maybe not you, Jack, but you know, the audience likes it. I like it. What's not to like? From Binary Ghost with the $5, why haven't we had another Einstein? I suspect we are done with the groundbreaking, fundamentally model-changing discoveries. Now it's just details. I'm not sure if that's true, but at the same time, he was like, why haven't we had another Einstein? He was like degrading Einstein, right? That was weird. We have a few more left. From Game Guy with the $5. My Doug, how many subjects is this professional stooge going to misunderstand, misrepresent? I don't think he said one correct thing. I don't think he said one correct thing. From Christopher Sanford with the £5. Yeah, Blitz, how many planks a second can you go before you satiate your quantum lust for a universe-sized super collider? Checkmate, atheist. True. You got me there. And from 50-Foot Punch with the $2, Ancient Aliens, Strongest Soldiers. I should have asked about Ancient Aliens, not Joe Rogan. I was convinced he was a Joe Rogan stan, but apparently not. And from Like a Wild Wolf with the $2, $2 Canadian, Titanic was decades before radar. Oh, yeah, okay, you're right. You're right. I got that wrong. But I know that there was a problem why they couldn't see the iceberg. It wasn't just that they didn't see it. There was actually a mistake made, if I remember correctly. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Titanic was decades before radar. It was like 3 decades before radar, I guess. But he didn't know that either. From Binary Ghost with the $10, actually look up the man-made Amazon thing. They found that a lot of it appears to be gardening farming from thousands of years ago. Actual universities have been researching this stuff. Don't blow it off. Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to look into it. There was a telegram sent about the weather report, I think. Titanic was just warnings from other ships and the ocean was really calm. Oh, okay. Yeah, so they got warnings from other ships, but they didn't buy it. I see. Okay, that makes sense. And I just want to double check. So we have a $20. Wait, hold on. I just want to double check. Just got a message. Okay, good. We got a $20 cash app from Shay for the number of times Slytherin made me say, wait, what? Thank you so much, Shay. It's always good to hear from you and always good to see you. All right. I just want to double check one more thing and we'll bring up our next guest. Okay, cool. We do have some guests on. Yeah, we need 100K likes on the YouTube or on the TikTok, by the way, because otherwise, well, whatever will we do? Now we have some. There was somebody who was in the chat who was says creationism is false, but thinks the Big Bang is real, right? Who was the person saying that? Because if they're in the guest box, I'll bring them up. Yeah, it's Anthony. Anthony McComb. Oh, Anthony, you're not in the chat. I'll invite you. Oh yeah, I should, before I bring up a next guest, because Anthony's not going to show up, I should remind you guys, if you like the Unapologetic Crew, this is a group, organization that me and two other fellas being non-gendered, created about a year and a half ago. We do a live show every Sunday. It's called Unapologetic, where we talk with theists. They're usually pretty good faith, but sometimes they're fun. And we are having our first in-person show in New York on October 10th. So if you want to come, tickets are they're not that expensive. I think they're like $30 or something. If you want to come, make sure to go to, it's being hosted by Pangburn. You might know Pangburn's YouTube account. It's Pang, P-A-N-G -burn, B-U-R-N .com. And so, you can get tickets there. That's Pangburn is hosting us. And if you don't want to see us in New York, we're also going to be in San Francisco and Los Angeles in November. So we don't have locations yet for those places, but I do believe that you can still get tickets for them, and we will update you when we get the tickets or when we get the location sorted. But yeah, check it out if it's something you're interested in. You can go to pang-burn.com and find it. So we have a few more super chats, and I'll bring up a guest. From Chaplain Grimaldus with the $2, do you think science takes faith to an extent? If it takes faith, if it takes faith, then faith doesn't have any meaning. That's what I would say. And from Like a Wild Wolf with the 2 Canuck bucks, a moonless night with no natural light also. What? Words can be non-gendered, Chaplain. Fellas can be non-gendered. Okay, let's bring up a guest. Bring up somebody named Advection Diffusion. Advection Diffusion on Discord, how is it going? You are live. You gotta unmute yourself, though. Hello? All right. The website was pang-burn, Pang-burn.com. You should also be able to find a link to it somewhere. Like if you go to my YouTube account and you go to the community post, you'll be able to see it there. There's like a poster. Please don't do IRL debates. They're not doing well in this economy. Look, so we're not, like, for the one in New York at least, like, we're not getting paid. This is just something, he offered to fly us out, host us, put us on his channel. I'm happy to do it. It'll be a fun weekend. Who knows what's going on with the LA and San Francisco one, but if this is for Pangburn's channel anyway, so Pangburn, I'm sure, is doing it for reasons. Whatever those reasons might be, I'm happy to go along. All right, let's bring up Jordan. Will it be live streamed? I don't know. I don't remember. Jordan, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Not a whole lot. Jordan, do you believe that the world was created?
I do. I was just listening to the last guy that you had, and he seemed pretty interesting.
Tell me about it.
But I didn't even really hear your position really well.
I didn't even get to present one.
Yeah, I would love to hear your position though, if that's okay.
My position is that certainly the Earth wasn't created by some divine fiat, and that we have reasons to reject the idea that the universe or that reality as a whole was created by divine fiat. That's my position.
Okay, what is your best reason for denying that?
Which one?
Denying that there is a telos, a creator.
Yeah, in order for there to be a creator of some kind, It would have to create the entirety of physical reality, which includes time. Such a thing, if it is indeed a creator with intention, with mind, with something like that, such a thing would have to have a mind in order to have agency, in order to have will, etc. However, no such things can exist in minds, or can exist timelessly, because in order to have a mind is to be capable of change. Otherwise, it's not a mind, it's a book. So, given that, I think that we have good reason to think that no such atemporal minds exist. We therefore have no such reason to think that any creator that created time exists.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're saying that if there was a creator, the creator would need a mind, and if the creator has a mind and is outside of time, it's a necessary contradiction, because in order to have a mind, you have to be inside of time. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And you
Okay,
know,
I feel like
we could also push back on, or like, we don't have to necessarily only talk about having a mind. We could talk about acting upon one's will. We could talk about having desires. Having desires imply that there is a sense in which you will have something, or you desire to have something, but you do not have it. Acting upon one's will is literally doing an action, but all of these kinds of things are the kinds of things that require time.
Okay, I'm just what I'm not totally understanding, because what you said was, oh well, if you're outside of time and you have a mind, but it doesn't meet the necessary requirement of being inside of time, then you're necessarily a bug. What did you mean by that?
Sorry, a book.
Oh, a book. Oh, I thought you said a bug.
Yeah. So like, look, we can think of a mind as kind of being having like a few different pieces. There's like minds can have knowledge, right? But minds also have wills, and they have desires, which are similar to wills. They have agency, so they have decision-making process. And so they can like consider arguments. And so if you take away all of the aspects of a mind that in some sense require time, you're just left with knowledge. And if you just have like a compendium of knowledge that is not capable of doing anything, that's static, that's identical to a book. Just like a list of facts.
Yeah. I see where you're going with that. Yeah. And by the way, I don't want to. I know that your field and what you talk about on here is physics mostly, I'm assuming, but I know that we're kind of talking about philosophy.
I'm happy to talk about philosophy. Don't worry about it.
Okay, cool. Because I just didn't want to be that one guy. Okay, it's an interesting position. I guess my first question is, what's your justification for that? What's your evidence for that? Because you're saying that, well,
for minds?
Yes, for minds needing to be inside of time. What's your justification for that?
Well, I mean, so there's like a cheeky answer, which is just every mind that we've ever seen is occupied in time. Therefore, we have reason to think that all minds are in time.
Okay, but if we use that kind of like philosophy, earlier somebody brought up epistemology, and you said that you were a pluralist. And I really wanted to ask you about that, because if you're a pluralist and you're saying, oh, well, we have reason to believe, you're kind of, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but in that you are kind of dodging just using a universal claim, and you're trying to use a subjective claim in order for it to still stay within your framework.
Well,
and
look,
I'm
so when I could give you a deductive argument, and then the question is, how do you justify the deductive argument? And so like you could, like, there are various ways that you can justify something. So like the argument I gave you wasn't formalized, the argument from atemporality. I have a formalized version of it. I just kind of summarized it for you. But then and so once you grant the premises, the conclusions just follow. They just do. That's what it means for there to be a deductive argument. The question is how do you justify the premises? And so one of the premises is something like, you know, minds exist in time, or something to that effect. It's not exactly that in the premise, but that's roughly that. And one of the ways that you can justify that is you can use induction, namely that if all of the experiences of X have property Y, then you have some degree of justification for believing that all X have property Y.
Well,
That's
hold
the
on,
principle
hold
of
on.
induction.
But you can't do that though. If you're saying that, well,
it's not
we
proof,
continually,
it's evidence.
Understood.
Okay, go ahead.
But that's more to my point. Is I'm asking you for a justification. I'm asking you for a proof, and you're saying, well, here's an evidence.
Wait, so justification and proof are not the same thing. You can provide justification without providing proof.
Well, when I say justification, I'm talking about an epistemic justification, right? I'm asking
so that is epistemic justification that I just gave you. evidence-based epistemic justification. This is an empirical kind of epistemic justification in particular.
Right. And my critique of that was that you're using a subjective claim that is trying its hardest to be a universal claim. You're saying, well, we've seen this.
This is just how we do empirical science.
Well, okay, this is why I say subjective, because if it's not universal, it has to be subjective.
Those two aren't opposite. No, the difference between the opposite of objective is subjective is objective. The opposite of universal is particular. Particular and subjective are not the same thing. Universal and objective are not the same thing.
Okay, when you make an objective claim, you're saying you're not making a universal claim?
No, you can have objective claims that are particular. For example, it is objectively the case that it rained last night, but that's not universal. It's not universally true that like it rained last night. That wouldn't even make sense because it's not a claim about it's not a universal claim.
Yeah, it is universally true because it did rain for you last night where you were in the world, right? That doesn't change for somebody else.
So I can correct. If I say it rained last night, that is objectively true, but that is indexed to a location and time, right? So it's not universal. Universal means that it's true at all moments of time, in all moments of space, right? So it's just not the case that objective and universal are just not the same. But as another example, by the way, it could be the case that every single human on Earth believes that, like, I don't know, eating meat is morally virtuous, and it could still be false that it's morally virtuous. And in fact, it could still be the case that that's subjective. It could just be that everybody has the same subjective opinion, right? It would still be universal because it's true about everybody, but it would be subjective.
Okay, yeah, I see where I'm going wrong there. Okay, that's interesting. So let me tackle it from this perspective.
Go ahead.
So I would say that knowledge, like having knowledge, needs a justification. Like we can't just say, well, we have knowledge, it just exists, it just is. Okay.
I agree.
So what is your justification for knowledge then?
So I justify knowledge about the external world empirically. I justify knowledge about the abstract deductively. I justify knowledge about the society that I live in interpersonally. You know, that's why I said I'm a pluralist.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. So on the naturalist side of that, right? When we're talking about empirical justification for knowledge, what is the best argument that you use typically in these debates for justifying that?
So if there's a particular knowledge claim that I'm trying to justify, I look for empirical evidence of it. That's how I justify it. That's the kind of justification that I think is satisfactory for empirical claim, or for, you know, natural claim or claims about the external world around us. Maybe I don't understand what you're asking.
But right. Well, what I'm asking is because your pluralism is apparently the correct position, right? But if your position is
the correct position, it seems to be successful for me. I don't know what it means for it to be correct, but
that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like if your position is true, if your position is correct, then we should have reasons for why it's correct, reasons for why it's true, right?
Oh, I don't know if I mean maybe if you can come up with some sort of like internal claim, but the thing is once you come up with reasons, then you have to ask, why are those reasons true and why are those reasons true? I mean, look, I agree that generally knowledge is the kind of thing that requires justification. This is part of how we define knowledge, at least classically. It's a justified true belief, right? But I think that either, I mean, there's a few different ways that you can talk about how you form justifications. You could form justification via coherency. This is pretty common. You can form justification by some sort of foundational axioms that are just, you know, foundational and cannot be rejected. You could justify knowledge from some brute fact about the world and say, well, all knowledge is justified because the Big Bang happened 13.8 billion years ago, and that's the justification. Like, you know, there's a bunch of different theories of justification, like of the foundation of knowledge, the foundation of justification. I'm not convinced of any particular one. I don't think that anyone is particularly satisfactory, although I think coherency, like the coherent theory, can at least is at least plausible. Like, I don't think that it's absurd. But
hey,
I'm not sure how.
Likes, by the way.
Yeah. Somebody just said that, so that means I have to put my hair down. Because all these simps, they just want to see my locks. That's all they're here for. Yeah. So, I mean, I agree. Knowledge requires justification. I just don't see how this gets us to a creator.
Okay. Well, Yeah. So when you said that we just have to continually, make more internal claims or more internal critiques and keep critiquing and critiquing and critiquing all the way down, right? And what I would say is at some point, the creator becomes the natural stopgap for that, where we give an actual a total answer, an actual circular answer on purpose, right? And so
But
a lot of the
then
time,
how
when
is
I
that any
talk
better of a justification?
It's better as a justification because if you look at a theistic model, the whole purpose of like a Christian model is to give a answer not just for these larger claims, but also the smaller claims as well. So, for example, a larger claim is going to be like, why do we have ethics? That's a big question.
Sure,
How are
sure.
we going to answer why do we have ethics? Well, if you're asking somebody who's a Kantian, they're going to say, well, we have ethics because, we don't necessarily have a priori existence, but it comes from experience, right? It comes from experience and
Sure, whatever.
evidence and both of those and like whatever, right? But obviously Kant, however many hundreds of years ago that guy lived, I forget how old he is, but a guy
Few
like that,
hundred.
there's newer modern critiques, right? Which is what you're saying. Like none of these things actually satisfy me.
Well, to be clear, I
when you
wasn't. I was saying coherency, not critique.
Yeah, well, no, I'm saying that all these things can be critiqued. You were saying that most of these positions, these epistemic positions, don't satisfy you, right? But
Yeah, I mean,
you said
I mean,
coherency was
like,
your favorite.
and when I say don't satisfy me, I don't mean that I have like some knockdown argument for them. What I mean is that like something about them is just like it doesn't feel like it's enough.
I agree.
That's like a, but like the God claim is the God claim just falls into one of these three categories. This is called Agrippa's trilemma. The God claim just is, I mean, it depending on how you interpret it, you either wind up at foundationalism, which is just that there is this unquestioning thing that provides a justification for knowledge. That's one view. The God claim could also be a coherentist take, which is just that, well, what God does is it provides us kind of like a circular base that isn't that kind of self-justifying in some way. And then, or you could have a brute claim, or like kind of the brute horn, which is just that, look, God justifies it because this is what's true and God knows it, and so you can know it by knowing what's true about what God knows. Like it just, God doesn't resolve this. He doesn't give us an answer to how we justify knowledge. It's just another option that doesn't get us out of the problem.
You said Agrippa's trilemma. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Sorry, I'm writing this stuff down because honestly,
Yeah, sure.
the reason why I'm asking so many questions and like giving half of a position is because most of this, you're educating me. I don't want this to be some like cage match. I'm really not that educated. I'm only
You're
20,
fine.
and yeah, I like coming on these lives because I get to
Have you spoken with
talk
Ian?
to people I wouldn't normally get to. Have I spoken to who?
Ian. Allegedly,
no,
Ian.
who's that?
He's a buddy of mine. They're currently out with some sickness, but they do live streams almost every day on this topic. They're a lot more philosophically inclined than I am. Like, I mean, I can muddy my way through philosophy, but it's not my passion, if you will. Ian
Right.
is working on like going to school for a PhD in philosophy and is interested in and reads a lot of philosophy. So you might actually be able to get a lot of your questions answered by Ian. They're quite a lovely person. Not to say that I can't help you, but you might also have a productive conversation there. If you wanna,
I really appreciate that.
If you
I'll
want
have
to
to check
DM
them
me on TikTok after you leave, I do check DMs, but don't spam me. Not you, everybody. Chat, don't spam me.
Yeah.
If you want to DM me, I can send you their username because they're live pretty frequently. I don't know if they'll be live this week, but they're live pretty frequently. And
heck yeah, that would be awesome. Seriously.
yeah, I can.
I'd love that.
I mean, I can't guarantee that you'll be brought up, but I can at least point
Of
you their
course.
direction.
Yeah, that's so cool. Thank you, man. Yeah, I appreciate some of the stuff that you talked about. Your argument on pluralism, I wrote down because that's really interesting, and I'm going to talk to my friends about that because that was my original position before I became a theist a couple of years ago.
Something that's worth considering, and so like, are you familiar with the transcendental argument for God?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay,
that's
so
what I'm talking about.
It sounds like that's where you're going. And look, I think what you'll find is that if you actually like dig yourself into the philosophical literature, what you'll find is that no philosophers take it seriously. And one of the reasons why no philosophers take it seriously, among many, because it is like genuinely a horrible argument, is something that you said. You said that all knowledge requires justification. Well, if that's the case, and God knows everything, what is God's justification for knowledge, right? That's like that is a foundational problem for the transcendental argument, that, oh well, God is the justification for knowledge. How can a thing justify itself? It's very, very mysterious seeming, and there's no answer to it because it's fundamentally circular.
Exactly, but I thought that, well, this is where my logic came in. The same way that you said, well, these theories feel like there's something missing. These epistemological theories feels like there's something missing. I felt the same thing, and when my friend showed me Jay Dyer's videos, I don't know if I can say that name here.
You can, you can, but you shouldn't. He's not.
Oh, sorry.
Well, no, I mean, it's fine. Jay Dyer is not somebody to be respected. He's like a bad person personally, but even beyond that, his arguments, like, there are actual philosophers who dismantle, like, these are professional people with PhDs who dismantle every single thing he says. Nobody takes him seriously.
Yeah, well, okay, that's fair. I was about to say the person that I got introduced to was Father Ananias, because he used to go to the same church that I used to before he became Orthodox. And so I was able to look at some of his stuff and his literature. Father Ananias, Deacon Ananias, is the guy that wrote the paper.
Isn't he...
He wrote the paper on the transcendental argument for God.
Wait, no, he didn't. The transcendental argument for God is far older than that. It's Van.
Well, okay, he wrote a paper on it. I don't know if he was the first.
Yeah, the original argument comes from Van Til.
Okay.
Yeah, and Van Til also a bad person, but at least he was like an actual philosopher. It turns out a lot of people are bad people, but you know, it's neither here nor there.
Okay. Anyway, I was bringing that forward mostly to test it, because I don't really watch a lot of debates, and I like to actually talk to people like this, like we're doing now. And I don't know, I just don't get much out of like spiking my cortisol watching people yell at each other over Twitter, you know?
So I'm generally a super chill guy. So like I have to spike my cortisol occasionally. Otherwise I'll just like, I'll just dissolve into goop, right?
I feel the same.
So you know, I got to do it occasionally. So Ian got into this. He got into all of this stuff. By the way, just so everybody knows, as far as so Ian uses they them pronouns, but actually just is fine with any pronouns. So that's why you'll see me switching back and forth. But Ian got into this because they were interested in tag, in the transcendental argument. And so as far as people on the internet go who are popular and talk about tag on the regular, Ian, or at least on TikTok, Ian is probably your go-to person. So if you want to talk about tag, Ian will have lots of lovely things to say about it.
Okay.
And you know, if you come in normal and not like that other guy, Ian is a very kind person.
Dude, what was he saying about like he said something about like the Hubble telescope, and like you're an atheist, so you want to like make a Dyson sphere and get... Who knows? It's crazy, man. Yeah,
it is unknown.
Allegedly, Ian. This guy looks cool.
Yeah. He's a nice guy. As long as you're not uncharitable, and as long as you're not coming in bad faith, you will have no bad things to say about Ian.
Okay, great. Can I ask you a question from your field before I go? So when you're talking to these creationists and they bring up young Earth creationism, obviously the go-to argument is just going to be all of the scientific evidence and literature there is for evolution, right?
Yep.
But what I heard growing
and more
up,
than that, there's so much more than that. But yeah, go ahead.
100%. I just mean that's like the first popular one that people often will go to. What I grew up hearing as somebody who grew up in a Christian household was this guy Kent Hovind. I don't know if you're aware of who that is.
Not only am I aware of him, I've spoken with him.
Wow, that's crazy. I debated him for 15 minutes forever.
I debated him for 15 minutes and then he hung up on me. I tried to schedule something with this guy and they never got back to me. So
wow. Okay. Well, so that's what I grew up watching. I loved his videos as a little kid. And he would talk all the time about this evidence they had.
By the way, interestingly enough, Kent Hovind, also a shitty person, went to jail for domestic violence. Or actually, I think he was charged with domestic violence. He went to jail for fraud. So he's actually like a convicted felon. I think he got out a few years ago.
Yeah, I heard about the tax thing. I didn't hear about the domestic violence thing.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to say anything slanderous or libelous. I'm just going to double check. Yeah. So he was arrested on July 30th, 2021 for allegedly throwing his estranged wife to the ground in October 2020. She petitioned for a protective order in Alabama, saying that she had to go to the emergency room after being body slammed. She also stated that she had been threatened by one of Hoven's associates. There was a bench trial. He was found guilty of domestic violence. He was sentenced to 1 year in jail, which would be suspended following 30 days in the county jail. And then he got out. So
wow.
I guess there's been an appeal. He's filed an appeal requesting a jury trial. But yeah, so not a good guy.
Okay, well, not a good guy, but he was the first guy that I ever heard as a kid talking about the geologic column and the quote unquote the layers, and he would bring up these photos of these trees that were supposedly sticking straight up through layers, and he would say this is evidence that the flood happened. My question to you is, like, his argument about like shake up a bottle of water and rocks, and the bigger rocks will go to, you know what I'm saying, like that whole argument. How do you like attack that argument? What's your best?
Yeah, so if I don't remember exactly what these are called. There's a name for them, these kind of like vertical things. And look, like one of the things is that these can be explained by flooding. The thing is if this was a global flood, then we would expect to see these everywhere. But we see them in specific places where we know geological flooding happened. Like they're not
Dr.
particularly
Blitz,
common.
they're covering it up. They're covering it up, Dr. Blitz. They don't want you to know. Regarding
flooding, this is something that honestly one of the best pieces of evidence in my view. There's a lake in Japan called Lake Suigetsu, and Lake Suigetsu has this interesting phenomenon. And it's pretty common in a lot of in lakes, but it's particularly pristine in Japan, where essentially they have algae that grows in the spring and summer on the surface, and then in the fall and winter it dies, and then it sinks to the bottom. And so what you find is differences in colors in the layers of the sediment down at the bottom of the lake. And actually, I can even just show you because I have pictures of this.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, this is fascinating.
Yeah, so essentially, you can find 70,000 layers of this. You can just count them individually. There's 70,000 layers of spring, summer, fall, winter. And if it were the case that there were a global flood, and like if it were the case that there were a global flood, then we would expect that there would be one enormous layer that goes back, maybe like there'd be 4,000 layers of spring, summer, winter, fall. Then there'd be one really, really thick layer of just a mess, and then probably nothing before that because everything else would have been washed away. But we see 70,000 layers, which is, like how do you explain that if there was a flood, for example? How do you explain that if the Earth is only 6,000 years old? Have there been 70,000 seasons or 70,000 years worth of seasons in 6,000 years? It's not so believable in my view.
No, for those who are interested, that is actually really interesting. I really appreciate that.
They're called varves. Here are the sections. You can see the individual layers. And actually, not only that, you can see when floods happened, like historically recorded floods. You can see when volcanic eruptions happened. You can see when earthquakes happened in the layers.
Oh yeah, that's sick. What?
Yeah, there's actually a museum built around this lake because this is such a pristine record of geological history, or it's not even geological history, of like, history over the last 70,000 years or so. It's super, super cool.
That is really cool. I got to check this out.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is a PDF. I think the PDF is from their museum or something. But it's called Lake Suigetsu. You can look it up. You'll find some neat stuff.
I was Googling it while you were talking. That's really sick. You know what? I really appreciate this talk. I hope that I haven't been too inflammatory.
No, you've been totally normal, and I appreciate you being a normal human. Which is why I recommend you talk to Ian, because Ian will have a lot of interesting things to talk with you about. So by all means.
Okay, great. Yeah, I really appreciate the talk. I'll let somebody else come up. Yeah, thanks for your time.
Yeah, of course. Have a good one. What a delightful human. You know how I know that Jordan is delightful? Because Jordan's not going on YouTube. That's how we know. All right, we have some super chats from Joshua Everett with $5. Tag is like if a garbage can had a garbage can for the garbage that was too garbage to go in the garbage can. That's one way of putting it. Yeah, tag is not good. Tag is bad, actually. And from Dr. Fudge with the $10, Hovind also let a PDF sleep in the same room as children at his dinosaur park, and later insisted that guy was a great person. Ooh, that's not good. Yeah. And I think didn't somebody die at one of his parks? Wasn't that a thing? Yeah, so Kent Hovind, not sure if he's a good person, but what we might do for the Unapologetic show at some point in the future, because Kent Hovind is live streaming on TikTok these days, which is very funny. We might actually do like a, not a prank call, but we might schedule a call where the Unapologetic crew will call in to Kent Hovind's show and see if we can jump him. So that's interesting. All right, let me just double check something really quick. I actually should probably end the live soonish because I have a really busy afternoon. So yeah, let me just double check. All right, so first, a few things to say. One, I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. I know that we only had a few guests, but it was definitely interesting. And if you did like the show, there are a few ways that you can support me if that's something you care about. The first way is super easy. Just subscribe on YouTube or follow on TikTok, follow along on Twitch. But if you do have expendable income, which most people don't, but if you do, it's like $5 a month to become a super fan on TikTok or a member on YouTube or like a subscriber on Twitch. You could even use an Amazon Twitch Prime sub, by the way, on Twitch. And that's a great way to support me too. If you want to support me and make sure I get all of it, go to Patreon. All cool things to do. They give me a little bit of consistency, you know, because this is one of the ways that I, you know, pay for bills, right? So anyway, you don't have to, of course, but it is a cool way to support me if you want to. By the way, a second thing, a few more points of order. I have a website. If you want to check my website, there's no merch there or anything. It just, you can see my research. I'm an active working scientist. You know, I publish in mathematics journals. I publish in physics journals. So if you go to my website, it's just blitz.phd. I'm very proud of it. I think it looks really good. And so check it out. You can see my research. You can see all of the social media stuff that I do. You know, you can look at my CV if you want. So that's neat. Fourth thing, I'm going to be on Skep Talk today on the line. So there is a show that is on YouTube. It's called, if you look up The Line on YouTube, you should find it. And I will be on it today with Forrest Valkai. That's at 4 p.m. Pacific time. So that might be really fun for you guys if you want to come watch. Forrest Valkai is quite the character, and he owes me $100, so I'm going to make sure to call him out on that. So that should be a good time. And then the last and final thing, if you want to come see me and a few of my buddies in person for some live debate stuff, make sure to check out Pangburn's website, pang-burn.com. This is you know, Pangburn has a YouTube channel. He's hosting myself and the other unapologetic crew members. We're going to do a live debate on October 10th in New York, and we're going to do 2 live debates, one in San Francisco and one in Los Angeles in the middle of November. So if you want to check us out in person, you can. Could be a very good time. So I'm going to end the live stream here. I have a bunch of stuff to take care of before I go on the line this afternoon. So I'm going to go take care of that now, and I will see you guys tomorrow for Ask, or actually I will see you later tonight on the line.